It's a great day for being sad.
Phrasing.
It's a bold strategy, Cod. Let's see if it pays off for him.
This is from 12 Rules for Life. So hot right now. So hot right now. So hot right now.
That's hot.
Rid of the Second Amendment.
Don't be creepy.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious,
The box is full of Pepe!
Arguably the greatest work of nonfiction of the 20th century.
Jesus, I say that.
It's science.
Follow the replay.
Consequences.
Wouldn't be prudent at this juncture.
Aren't I a good guy?
China. I have to have my China. I have to have my China. 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 I have to have my China. I have to have my China. People from China, they love me.
Phrasing?
Don't be creepy. Don't be creepy. Don't be creepy.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for 'em.
Consequences.
So hot right now.
That's hot.
It's science. It's science.
Follow the replay.
I see that you know your judo.
It's a great day. For being sad.
Well, it's good to see you again, chat. Hope you've been having a fantastic day so far. Got a lot to cover, so we better get right to it. So buckle up, space fans. It's time for us to take a little stroll down Crazy Lane. What are we starting with today? Alright. Well, we're gonna start in America, as usual. I too hope we don't start buffering. Fingers crossed. But because of that, we'll start with something, a little academic. Well, not really academic, but really judicial. First, though, we'll look at Arizona before we go on to the Supreme Court, as we've got a lot to talk about. Apparently, a day ago, according to the AP, Arizona House has advanced a repeal of state's near total abortion ban. That said, we're going to analyze what this means in a moment.
A proposed repeal of Arizona's near-total ban on abortions has won approval from the Arizona State House, clearing its first hurdle a week after a court concluded the state can enforce the 1864 law.
32 ayes, 28 noes. You've passed House Bill 2677, signed in open session. Clerk's instructed to record the action of the House, convey the bill to the Senate.
We know that the people of Arizona, a greater percentage of the people of Arizona want this law to go into effect, to repeal, so that folks can get the care that they deserve.
We're supposed to be doing the people's work, and that's what's been done for the last 2 weeks, and that's what we finalized today.
Many House Republicans vehemently opposed the passing.
Abortion is barbaric. It is akin to slavery. It is establishing that a baby
Wow,
is mere
it's
property
akin
that can be
to
disposed of
slavery. This woman is living in an alternate reality.
property owner sees fit.
We're told in Jeremiah 1:5, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I sanctified you.
Jesus, I say that.
Okay, so don't get too excited, chat. Unfortunately, I have a little bit of analysis on this one. Now, while this repeal has passed the House, unfortunately, the likelihood of it passing the Senate is quite low. If you look here, you can see that the seats in Arizona's state Senate are there's 30 seats, and there are 16 Republicans and 14 Democrats, which means that it will most likely not pass the Senate, even though it made it past the House. So it really, I don't think it means anything for anybody in Arizona. If it does wind up meaning something, that would be great. I just don't have a lot of faith in Arizona Republicans for whatever reason. I don't know why. I don't know why I would think such a thing. When I saw it, though, I was like, initially I was stoked, and then I realized that it was just the House. So until later, I don't think we're going to have any clarity on this. Doesn't seem like it. Uh-oh. Wait, the Earth rotation is choppy? Oh, these bastards. Oh, they're doing it again. Oh, we're getting shadow banned. We're getting attacked. Wait. I think I've fended them off. Alright. Wait. Actually, wait a second. Wait, no. No, I was right. Damn it. No, you are right, sadly. Okay, fucking hell. Alright, let's move on. I defeated them. Yes. It only took a small amount of effort. Okay. Now, let's listen to a number of excerpts here, thanks to PBS NewsHour. This is the Supreme Court hearing about the presidential this case regarding presidential immunity being brought by Trump. Let's listen to this in order, I guess. Start with listening to an unhinged individual by the name of Amy Coney Barrett. Try and ask a reasonable question. Shocking, I know.
So, Mr. Sauer, you've argued that the impeachment clause suggests or requires impeachment to be a gateway to criminal prosecution, right?
Yes, I think that's the plain meaning of that second phrase in the clause.
Okay, so there are many other people who are subject to impeachment, including the 9 sitting on this bench, and I don't think anyone has ever suggested that impeachment would have to be the gateway to criminal prosecution for any of the many other officers subject to impeachment. So why is the president different when the impeachment clause doesn't say so?
Someone very important has made the opposite suggestion as to the president himself, which is Solicitor General Bork, which is reaffirmed in the OLC opinions on this, where Solicitor General Bork in 1973, as to the issue of the vice president, reviewed the historical materials, and he said the sequence is mandatory only as to the president. That is DOJ's view.
I love how this guy is quoting Bork. Amazing. Unbelievable. Very important person. Says, wait, what's this guy's? Hold on, we gotta look this guy's name up again. What's this dick's name? Why don't I remember what your name is? Nobody wants to tell me what this guy's fucking name is. Very helpful, everyone. Yeah, he's got the RFK voice real bad. Real bad. Okay, where is he? What's this dude's name? John Sauer. Okay, this is who we're talking about. This is John Sauer here. Hey, stop asking for my location. So yeah, this guy right here with the RFK voice. It does sound like it, like RFK is his counsel, but no, it's this guy.
Of the original understanding of the impeachment judgment clause, which is exactly our position. The sequence is mandatory only as to the president. Keep in mind that the criminal prosecution of a president prior to impeachment contradicts, in our view, the plain language of the Constitution, but also hundreds of years of history. And what DOJ admits is the framers' intent. And so we say that that practice, whatever its validity, should not be extended to this novel context where it clashes with the constitutional
What if
structure.
the criminal conduct isn't discovered until after the president is out of office? So there was no opportunity for impeachment.
We say the framers assumed the risk of under-enforcement by adopting these very structural checks. As Justice Scalia said in Morrison against Olson, the separation of powers.
I just want everybody here to keep in mind that what effectively Trump's counsel are or is arguing for is for the president to be the king, okay? Like the entire system is unable to criminally prosecute a president, sitting or former, right? That's basically their whole plan here.
Prevents us from righting every wrong, but it does so that we do not lose liberty.
Okay, and the special counsel makes a point that I think is a pretty compelling one. You admit that if the president were successfully impeached, that he could be criminally prosecuted after impeachment, right?
Assuming the prosecution was for the same conduct of which he was convicted, not impeached, he must be convicted. That word conviction is right there in the clause.
Okay, granted. But you also say that these criminal statutes, unless they explicitly mention the president, don't apply to him. So how can you say that he would be subject to prosecution after impeachment while at the same time saying that he's exempt from these criminal statutes?
Well, there are statutes, as they concede, where Congress has purported to do so.
2 or 3.
They haven't done a comprehensive review. I think it looks like all they did was text search for president in 18 U.S. Code.
It's hilarious trying to listen to Amy Coney Barrett, like, try and wrap her head around it, because she wants to accept this, I think, but is, like, maybe smart enough to realize that what he's saying would apply to all future presidents, and I don't think she likes that idea. Poor Amy. Okay, what's next? Okay, yeah, let's listen to, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson ask what it is that stops presidents from committing crimes if they're immune from prosecution.
So I think I now understand better your position. In your discussions with Justice Kavanaugh, it became clear that you are saying that for the private acts of a president, there's no immunity, but for the official acts of the president, there is immunity. Is that your position?
I agree with that.
All right. So one thing that occurs to me is that this sort of difficult line drawing problem that we're having with all of these hypotheticals, is this a private act or a public act, is being necessitated by that assumption. Because of course, if official acts didn't get absolute immunity, then it wouldn't matter. We wouldn't have to identify which are private and which are public, correct?
That, in fact, is the approach of the D.C. Circuit. There's no determination that needs to be made.
Right. So the with the Trump plaintiff, whatever the Trump defense, the representation for Trump are trying to argue is that there is a clear and distinct difference between private and what do you call it? Acts of a president, right? Like in office, right? And and they're really trying to do that because they believe that the statute in this frickin' thing that they're citing suggests that while in office, a president's actions are not prosecutable.
I'm just making, so to the extent we're worried about, like, how do we figure out whether it's private or public, we have to understand that we're only doing that because of an underlying assumption that the public acts get immunity. So let me explore that assumption. Why is it, as a matter of theory, and I'm hoping you can sort of zoom way out here, that the president would not be required to follow the law when he is performing his official acts? Everyone else, there are lots of folks who have very high-powered jobs, who make a lot of consequential decisions, and they do so against the backdrop of potential criminal prosecution if they should break the law in that capacity. And we understand and we know, as a matter of fact, that the President of the United States has the best lawyers in the world. when he's making a decision, he can consult with pretty much anybody as to whether or not this thing is criminal or not. So why?
The Constitution? I don't even know if what is being cited by Trump's legal team is the Constitution. I think what they're citing is a Bork decision from '73. While it's convoluted as shit, and I'm still trying to grasp my head around this, honestly. But it just doesn't make any sense. What the argument keeps coming up for me as being is that, at least what they're framing it as, is that presidents just can't be prosecuted. Once you become a president, you're immune from the law, right? You become a king. You become a fucking god king. You're literally immune from any kind of prosecution. And there's already protections against civil prosecution, technically. And it's just it's insane to suggest this.
We have a situation in which we would say that the president should be making official acts without any responsibility for following the law.
I respectfully disagree with that characterization. The president absolutely does have responsibility. He absolutely is required to follow the law in all of his official acts. But
In
the
what
remedy
way?
for that is the question.
The fact is the use of the word require. It suggests that there is something keeping it from happening, or keeping the underlying problem from ever occurring. But if there's no a way to litigate someone for committing a crime who is a president or was a president, then what is requiring a president from following the law at that, right? There is no threat of any sort of retribution or it's nonsense. It's like a circular sort of argument that lacks any real foundation.
Could he be subject to personal vulnerability, sent to prison for making a bad decision after he leaves office?
But other people who have consequential jobs and who are required to follow the law make those determinations against the backdrop of that same kind of risk. So what is it about the president? I mean, I've heard you say it's because the president has to be able to act boldly, make kind of consequential decisions. I mean, sure, but again, there are lots of people who have to make life and death kinds of decisions, and yet they still have to follow the law, and if they don't, they could be sent to prison, et cetera, et cetera. So
I say two things in response to that,
Yes.
both from Fitzgerald. That's the very sort of inference or reasoning that this court rejected in Fitzgerald.
No, but let me just, Fitzgerald was a civil situation in which the president actually was in a different position than other people because of the nature of his job, the high-profile nature, and the fact that he touches so many different things. When you're talking about private civil liability, anybody on the street can sue him, we could see that the president was sort of different than the ordinary person when you say, should he be immune from civil liability from anybody who wants to sue him? But when we're talking about criminal liability, I don't understand how the president stands in any different position with respect to the need to follow the law as he's doing his job than anyone else.
He is required to follow the law. And what
But
Fitzgerald
he's not
said is
if
that
there's no criminal prosecution. If there's no threat of criminal prosecution, what prevents the president from just doing whatever he wants?
all the structural checks that are identified in Fitzgerald and a whole series of this court's cases that go back to Martin against Mott, for example, impeachment, oversight by Congress, public oversight. There's a long series that Fitzgerald directly addresses this in the civil context.
He's essentially the only thing that can be done is a wag of the finger, right?
And we think that language naturally ports.
I'm not sure that's much of a backstop. And what I'm, I guess, more worried about, you seem to be worried about the president being chilled. I think that we would have a really significant opposite problem if the president wasn't chilled. If someone with those kinds of powers, the most powerful person in the world, with the greatest amount of authority, could go into office knowing that there would be no potential penalty for committing crimes. I'm trying to understand what the disincentive is from turning the Oval Office into, the seat of criminal activity in this country.
I don't think there's any allegation of that in this case. And what George Washington said is, what Benjamin Franklin said is, we view the prosecution of a chief executive as something that everybody cried out against as unconstitutional. And what George Washington said is, we're worried about factional strife, which will.
No, I'm also. Let me put this worry on the table.
I love how the legal counsel for Trump is talking about factional strife when the person that they're representing has already claimed that he's going to put people in jail if he's put back in office. It's wow.
Potential for criminal liability is taken off the table. Wouldn't there be a significant risk that future presidents would be emboldened to commit crimes with abandon while they're in office? It's right now the fact that we're having this debate because OLC has said that presidents might be prosecuted. Presidents from the beginning of time have understood that that's a possibility. That might be what has kept this office from turning into the kind of crime center that I'm envisioning. But once we say, no criminal liability, Mr. President, you can do whatever you want, I'm worried that we would have a worse problem than the problem of the president feeling constrained to follow the law while he's in office.
Arguably the greatest work of nonfiction of the 20th century.
I don't see how it wouldn't become that, right? Like if you tell all future presidents, including the current one, that no crimes can be like indicted, right? They can't be indicted for any crimes, right? What exactly is keeping them from just running like a drug cartel from the White House, literally, you know, turning it into a trap house? I mean, I'm just throwing random shit out there, but like literally, I mean, what are we talking about right now? How can that be an argument being taken seriously? The fact is, some of the justices are taking this argument seriously. This is why we're watching this, because it's not all Ketanji Brown Jackson and Amy Coney Barrett then also like trying to wrap her head around the situation. There's also idiots. We're going to be listening to a little bit of that in a second, but first let's listen to Justice Sotomayor saying that a stable democratic society needs faith in public officials following the law.
I don't want reality.
A stable democratic society needs the good faith of its public officials, correct?
Absolutely.
And that good faith assumes that they will follow the law.
Correct.
Now, putting that aside, there is no fail-safe system of government, meaning we have a judicial system that has layers and layers and layers of protection for accused defendants in the hopes that the innocent will go free. We fail routinely, but we succeed more often than not. In the vast majority of cases, the innocent do go free. Sometimes they don't, and we have some post-conviction remedies for that.
Or never leaving office and assassinating their opponents. Absolutely. I mean, that kind of made me think of, like, you know, the fact that if we do that, we become a literal, like a banana republic slash autocracy, right? Because if you can't be persecuted for a crime, right, then no longer are you limited to 2 terms. You can have as many terms. You can keep running. You can, you know. And the fact is, I was thinking about this earlier when I was listening to this. Like the Secret Service are like there to protect the president, and even after they're out of office, right? So what happens in this situation if the president can't commit a crime, and they have like it's just it's a fucking nonsense situation that we cannot allow.
But we still fail. We've executed innocent people. Having said that, Justice Alito went through step by step all of the mechanisms that could potentially fail. In the end, if it fails completely, it's because we've destroyed our democracy on our own, isn't it?
It is, Justice Sotomayor, and I also think that there are additional checks in the system. Of course, the constitutional framers designed a separated powers system in order to limit abuses. I think one of the ways in which abuses are limited is accountability under the criminal law for criminal violations. But the ultimate check is the goodwill and faith in democracy. And crimes that are alleged in this case that are the antithesis of democracy, that subvert it, undermine that.
An encouragement to believe words that have been somewhat put into suspicion here, that no man is above the law, either in his official or private acts.
I think that is an assumption of the Constitution.
Okay, before we move on, slow down, slow down.
Okay, I have one last set of questions, which...
Where are we at? No, honestly, I want to listen to this one too. Like, for me, like, this stuff is genuinely not only interesting, but, like, really fucking important that we, you know, keep aware of what it is that's going on with the Supreme Court. I know they use flowery vernacular sometimes, but the fact is they're just normal people, right, that happen to choose law as a career and happen to have connections that got them where they got to, right? And, you know, we can't just let randoms do this kind of shit to our democracy. That's all I'm saying. They're not even elected. Okay, this is not Alito. This is shit, Kagan? My brain just broke. I think this is Justice Kagan speaking. Doesn't actually say it in the title of the vid. But this is her talking about how organizing alternate electors was campaign conduct and not a public presidential act.
I don't want reality.
Has to do with the official, unofficial line. Yes. And you heard Mr. Sauer's responses to both Justice Barrett's questions and my questions about what he thinks counts as official here and what he...
By the way, chat, before we get any further, I just want to point out that we are currently relegated to just Scott Bakula here to help us in this adventure through the void which we're going on. And we have an unfortunate deficiency in likes right now, considering the number of people watching. And it is in your hands whether or not we can unlock further support.
Things counts as unofficial here, and I'm just wondering what you took from his responses and also how you would characterize what is official and what is not official in this indictment.
So I think petitioner conceded that there are acts that are not official that are alleged in the indictment, and we agree with him on all of that. I think I disagree with him on everything else that he said about what is official and what is not. Organizing fraudulent slates of electors, creating false documentation that says, I'm an elector, I was appointed properly, I'm going to send a vote off to Congress that reflects that petitioner won rather than the candidate that actually got the most votes and who was ascertained by the governor and whose electors were appointed to cast votes. That is not official conduct. That is campaign conduct. And
exactly.
I think that the D.C. Circuit in the Blassingame case did draw an appropriate distinction.
How is campaign conduct attempting to get reelected not a personal, private situation? That if getting elected is a public act, right? In the way that they're talking about public and private, like it does essentially suggest that the entire government, then not just the president, I don't think, if they were to make this ruling or to allow this nonsense argument to go by, essentially say that the entire government can use. I think they'd probably be able to not only do what Trump did and try and rig elections for themselves and have it not be a crime even while in office, when it's clearly the there's definitely something to being an incumbent, right? But you could probably even use tax dollars and say, no, I'm just acting. This is a public good, getting me reelected, right? Okay, we're not gonna watch that whole thing. If you want to watch that whole argument about that, go right ahead. I wouldn't blame you. It's on PBS NewsHour. It was from 9 hours ago. This is from 8 hours ago. Let's listen to Justice Alito, who wonders if the U.S. will become a nation where election loser gets thrown in jail. Oh God, what a crazy thought. I wonder who would try and do something like that.
On the question of whether a president has the authority to pardon himself, which came up earlier in the argument, what's the answer to that question?
I don't believe the Department of Justice has taken a position. The only authority that I'm aware of is a member of the Office of Legal Counsel wrote on a memorandum that there is no self-pardon authority. As far as I know, the department has not addressed it further, and of course this court had not addressed it either.
Well, when you addressed that question before us, are you speaking in your capacity solely as a member of the special counsel's team, or are you speaking on behalf of the Justice Department, which has special institutional responsibilities?
I am speaking on behalf of the Justice Department, representing the United States.
Now, don't you think we need to know the answer to, at least to the Justice Department's position on that issue in order to decide this case? Because if a president has the authority to pardon himself before leaving office, and the D.C. Circuit is right that there is no immunity from prosecution, won't the predictable result be that presidents on the last couple of days of office are going to pardon themselves from anything that they might have been conceivably charged with committing?
I really doubt that, Justice Alito. I mean, it sort of presupposes a regime that we have never had except for President Nixon and, as alleged in the indictment here, presidents who are conscious of having engaged in wrongdoing and seeking to shield themselves. I think the political consequences of a president who asserted a right of self-pardon that has never been recognized, that seems to contradict a bedrock principle of our law that no person shall be the judge in their own case. Those are adequate deterrents, I think.
What I love is that Justice Alito is so useless as a human being that his argument is that he needs somebody else to make the argument first before he can even possibly wrap his head around even the idea of entertaining thinking about something. It's too much. It's too much for him, man.
So that this kind of dystopian regime is not going to evolve.
All right, let me end with just a question about what is required for the functioning of a stable democratic society, which is something that we all want. I'm sure you would agree with me that...
Are we going to watch this whole thing? No, we are not going to watch this whole thing. Incorrect. First off, we've watched only snippets of these, but also I left out a ton. I left out a ton, to be perfectly honest. I tried to find the stuff that I was like, oh, we should probably listen to at least portions of this. This seems at least mildly important in terms of how our government's supposed to or is functioning right now, in theory. And, yeah.
A stable democratic society requires that a candidate who loses an election, even a close one, even a hotly contested one, leave office peacefully if that candidate is the incumbent.
Of course.
All right. Now, if an incumbent who...
But that said, we've definitely heard enough from Alito. His whole argument is basically just that he can't possibly opine on this until someone else does first. He can't do it. It's impossible. He's too much of an originalist. He doesn't have any thoughts inside of his brain. And so, because of that, maybe Trump is right. He's the one who claimed it first. Maybe it does exist. Such an idiot. Okay. And to wrap this up, we're going to listen to a portion of Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, once again, questioning whether Trump's case can determine presidential immunity limits. If we're going to watch the water circle... Oh. I'm clearly missing... I'm missing things in chat, and that's on me. I'm multitasking. It's one of those things where, you know, no one's perfect, and something gets thrown out as you're trying to listen and read simultaneously.
I think I heard you say that even if we decide here something, a rule that's not the rule that you prefer, that is somehow separating out private from official acts and saying that that should apply here, there's sufficient allegations in the indictment, in the government's view, that fall into the private acts bucket that the case should be allowed to proceed.
Correct.
Because in an ordinary case, it wouldn't be stopped just because some of the acts are allegedly immunized, even if people agree that some are immunized. If there are other acts that aren't, the case would go forward.
That is right.
All right. Going back to the clear statement argument, I'm struggling with that argument because my understanding was that when a charged criminal statute is read narrowly in the presidential context to not apply to the president, a constitutional question is being avoided. So that you're doing that to avoid having to deal with the constitutional question. So what is the constitutional question that is being avoided in those kinds of situations?
A serious one. This is just an application of this court's ordinary construction of criminal statutes, that if there is an available interpretation that would avoid a serious constitutional question, the court's preference is to
right, and the nature, I guess I'm going at, my understanding is that what is being avoided in that situation is the question of whether a former president or, can be held criminally liable for doing the alleged act that is being asserted in that statute consistent with the Constitution. So we look at the statute, it's got some elements in it, and we are saying, well, geez, if this statute and those elements apply to the president's conduct in this situation, we'd have to answer the question, can the president be held liable consistent with the Constitution for that behavior? Is that right?
So the first step in that analysis, I just want to...
Yes,
please. But the first step is there ambiguity? And these statutes apply to any person. They apply to whoever. There's no ambiguity in those phrases. This court in Nardone versus United States concluded that similar words, any person, apply to government officials.
All right, well, let's just assume that I guess I'm just trying to get at, we're avoiding a constitutional question if we do that.
Right, and so the fact is that the, what's it called? The AG, I think is who, no. It's the, shit. Oh, I'm thinking about too many institutions all at once right now. The government that's making the argument against, right, the opposing argument is trying to avoid making constitutional interpretations because that's supposed to be the Supreme Court's job. This is absurd. You're right. It is absurd, but it's happening. Like this is what's happening. We're deciding whether or not presidents are kings. That's what's happening.
Ordinary case. And what's confusing to me about this case is that we're not being asked to avoid the constitutional question. In fact, the question of whether or not the president can be held liable consistent with the Constitution or does he have immunity is the question that's being presented to us. So I don't understand how the clear statement kind of analysis even works. It seems completely tautological to me for us to hold that presidents cannot be prosecuted under any criminal statute without a clear statement from Congress to avoid the question of whether or not the Constitution allows them to be prosecuted. We'd have to have a reason, right? I mean, we'd have to have a rationale for applying the clear statement rule.
I think the court would
Exactly. Okay, that hit all the points I thought we needed to hit out of that. I think we did it in about 35 minutes-ish. Could have been worse. Could have been worse, I'll tell you that. Could have been much worse because as you know, I'm always, not always, but I talk a lot. And that means it would have, I think the original one was like an hour and a half long. So we could have probably gone for like 3 hours on this at least. But we're not going to, because it would be an exercise in futility. Alright, to get us moving into the next topic, kind of. But it's going to take a second. Let's look at this protest that was happening outside of the Supreme Court as they listened to Trump's immunity case. And what's happening after that? Are we at 20 minutes? We're so close right now, chat. You're four likes away right now from unlocking Captain Benjamin Sisko. It's a travesty. Poor Bakula has to do it all on his own. Honestly, I clicked this thumbnail because of the kangaroos. I couldn't help it. They're hilarious and cute. And I loved it. Not gonna lie. Okay, before we move on to the Trump trial, the hush money trial in New York, Jesus Christ. They are doing so much fucking litigation right now, it's insane. This is Trump outside of the courtroom in New York, saying that the SCOTUS has a quote-unquote very important argument before it, as well as some other nonsense things. So let's listen to this stable genius.
Illegal. I think that the Supreme Court has a very important argument before it today. I would have loved to have been there, but this judge would not allow that to happen. I should be there, but he wouldn't allow it to happen.
So, the thing about this, for me, I was trying to understand. It took me like 5 minutes, not quite that long, but it took me like some real thinking to try and understand what it was that Trump meant by this, right? And I looked into it. I tried to Google search it. I couldn't find anything that related to what he was talking about. And what I think he is saying is that because the hush money trial is being held, he must have asked the judge in the hush money trial to be postponed, right? So that he could be at the Supreme Court, but the judge was like, no, fuck you, we've been postponing this for months and months and months. Go fuck yourself, right? And so I think he's just having a little temper tantrum about the fact that he doesn't get to be at the Supreme Court for some reason. But yeah. Never disappoints with the stupidity. Also might be a violation of his gag order. I'm not sure what criticism is allowed and not right now. They're still hashing that out as well. But let's listen to this, at least a part of this from 8 hours ago. CNN. Trump lawyer makes admission under questioning from Justice Barrett.
You concede that private acts don't get immunity.
We do.
Okay, and I want to know if you agree or disagree about the characterization of these acts as private. Petitioner turned to a private attorney, was willing to spread knowingly false claims of election fraud to spearhead his challenges to the election results. Private?
As alleged, I mean, we dispute the allegation, but
Of
that
course.
sounds private to me.
Sounds private. Petitioner conspired with another private attorney who caused the filing in court of a verification signed by petitioner that contained false allegations to support a challenge.
That
Private.
also sounds private.
3 private actors, 2 attorneys, including those mentioned above, and a political consultant helped implement a plan to submit fraudulent slates of presidential electors to obstruct the certification proceeding, and petitioner and a co-conspirator attorney directed that effort.
You read it quickly. I believe that's private.
So, Steve, just to underline what you're saying here.
So yeah, the importance of this, and I kind of missed it in my first listening of this as I was going through a ton of stuff, but the admission by counsel here essentially opens up the you know what, hold on, I'll let them explain it. I'm not going to explain it as well.
This is Amy Coney Barrett, the justice who Trump appointed, getting Trump's attorney to concede that some of the things that he has been charged with by the special counsel Jack Smith are definitely not covered by immunity.
I think that's right, Jake. And the reason why that's so important is because you can build out from there, sending this back to the trial court. And I think the question becomes twofold. First, are there 5 justices, perhaps Justice Barrett, the 3 Democratic appointees, and Chief Justice Roberts, who can agree on what the line is that puts those acts on the prosecutable side and maybe some other things not? And then, Jake, second, timing. If that agreement exists, if there is at least 5 votes for that proposition.
This stacked Supreme Court is out of control. It's supposed to be a check and it's supposed to be a check, right? Or a balance, one of the two, maybe both, I'm not sure. But it's certainly not doing that at this moment. It's fucking out of control. I was told we were going to pack the courts years ago. What happened to that plan? But the point is, it opens him up to more litigation and affirms certain things that were not yet made tacit, or not tacit, like just made clear yet in other litigation that's been happening. Okay, what's next? Oh, okay, yeah. Let's move on to this really quickly. This is from ABC from 5 hours ago, where David Pecker has said and admitted now that the Stormy Daniels story was in fact true, according to people who were intimate with this and had told him, apparently.
Supreme Court has finished hearing oral arguments about whether former President Trump or
settle down.
other presidents are questioned whether the conspiracy and fraud-related charges against Trump.
So, were Trump's lawyers able to shake David Pecker's testimony? Eyewitness News reporter NJ Burkett covering the trial for us from Lower Manhattan. NJ.
And right, Bill, they have not had much of an opportunity to do that, at least not yet, although you know the defense has been sharpening its knives for David Pecker for a long time. No, Pecker spent much of the day on the witness stand for the prosecution, discussing the agreement he had with Donald Trump. Prosecutors say Donald Trump wanted the stories to go away. His one-time pal, former National Enquirer publisher David Pecker, explained how he engineered a deal to buy the silence of Karen McDougal, a Playboy model who claimed she'd had an affair with Trump. Pecker says he had a secret agreement with Trump and his attorney Michael Cohen to be on the lookout for damaging stories about Trump. When a doorman at Trump Tower claimed falsely that Trump had fathered an illegitimate child, Pecker paid the man $30,000 for the rights to the story, then buried it. When Ms. McDougal surfaced, demanding $150,000, Pecker told Cohen he would broker the deal. But there was a catch. I said, "Who is going to pay?" He said, "You should pay." And I said, "Why should I pay? I just paid $30,000 for the doorman story, and this is $150,000. $150,000. Who's going to reimburse me for this?" And he said, "Don't worry about it. The boss will take care of it." And I took that to mean Donald.
Whoa, the boss. Whoa. I thought, oh no.
Trump, and that I would be reimbursed from the Trump
I
organization
thought Joe Biden was the
or
boss.
Donald Trump. But Pecker told the jury he never saw a penny. And by the time Stormy Daniels came forward with her own story, Pecker testified he'd had enough. I said, "I don't want the National Enquirer to be associated with a porn star," telling Michael Cohen, "I am not a bank. You should buy this story, and you should take it off the market. If you don't, and it gets out, I believe the boss is going to be very angry with you."
A lot of Pecker puns in chat.
Cohen will testify it was he who paid Ms. Daniels $130,000 of his own money on the eve of the 2016 election. Prosecutors say Trump reimbursed him months later, disguising the payments as legal expenses.
So yeah, Karen McDougal and Stormy Daniels, both of those stories now 100% confirmed by testimony by David Pecker on the stand in the hush money trial in New York. Oh, Trump, things are not going well for you there, buddy.
Illegal.
Okay, let's move on to tech and some other things before we hit up environmental stuff, as you all kind of probably know the way this show goes at this point. Okay, what's the first one? I gotta line this one up first. Curry? That sounds delicious. Although I'm afraid the effort involved in sending it up to the space station might be a bit much. I appreciate the thought, though. Really do. Make me very hungry. Alright, let's watch this interview that BBC did with the quote-unquote AI godfather, Joshua Bengio, on his concerns about disinformation bots. Now, Joshua Bengio is a like a computer scientist sort of guy, right? He's from Canada and has been working on like neural networks and AI for quite some time now, it would seem. I don't know exactly how long. Where does this interview start? I think it's in the middle somewhere. You know, I'll give us a little bit of run up. Right here. How about that? You like that? Hey, be my friend. There we go. Whoa, what is happening? Why do I have no sound? I don't appreciate this at all. Oh, there we go.
The AI they're developing capable of identifying and removing the problem. We have a brilliant guest for you this week, one of the godfathers of AI, and I don't use that term lightly. Professor Joshua Bengio was this past week named Time Magazine's 100 most influential people worldwide. His research has been instrumental in shaping the world's understanding of AI, its potential and its threats. It earned him the 2018 Turing Award, the Nobel Prize of Computing, alongside Geoffrey Hinton and Jan de Kun. Joshua Bengio, welcome to the programme.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Help us understand, would you, what these AI bots can do in the wrong hands and what we're up against?
Well, what is already happening is we can use these AI systems to synthesize content in a controlled way. So content could be voices, images, videos, or texts. Controlled means you can specify, for example, to imitate a particular person based on the data we have about that person. You can specify what that person would say. Recently, I've seen a fake me saying things I would never say, and I must say it's
gotta be creepy. Like, I don't know if he like happened upon it or somebody like made it for him or what it was, but just having that sort of thrust at you like an AI of yourself would be really off-putting, I think. And the fact is I've seen some very convincing AI stuff recently. You know, where it's doing things that literally like a year ago it was garbage at, right? Like, I think everybody here remembers like the Will Smith spaghetti meme and all that stuff, but it has gotten so much further. It has gone so much further than what it was at then. And literally just like I think it was like a year ago that came out. Maybe I'm losing my mind, but it wasn't that long ago.
shocking, more than seeing other people being imitated, but it's also something chilling and that we have to do something about.
And it's so important we get to the bottom of this. We had the AI Safety Summit late last year. We have the idea of red teaming, evaluation of large language models. You've done lots of work on secure systems. You write about an AI scientist. Do you think that governments have understood these threats properly? And do you think that those methods are going to be enough to be able to protect us from all of these risks?
Well, we don't have silver bullets, and governments are not doing enough. But compared to a year ago, the situation is a lot better. Of course, one problem is that also the technology is changing, and these AI systems are becoming more capable. And one of the things I'm worried about, especially in the context of political disinformation, is that we now have AI systems that master language. One concern that scientists have is that bad actors tune them, which might not require a lot of effort, so that they become really good at making you change your mind, persuasion. And you can see how that could be dangerous in the context of elections. So one thing is seeing memes,
Yeah, once you start like combining data, psychology, AI, and like like the ability of that AI to just create content, post itself. Because I've seen some stuff where like bots are able to now create entire channels on their own. It's not that complicated, right? And then from there just start posting. Just at will. And it's pretty concerning. Pretty concerning if you ask me. How far are we? Okay, not doing too bad. Alright, let's watch this next one. This video is from Reuters discussing Meta's AI spending spree. This is from 7 hours ago.
Mark Zuckerberg is still Mark Zuckerberg. It's a fact that investors seem to have forgotten. Meta Platforms, the company he started and leads, lost about $150 billion of market value after indicating a spending spree is in the cards. Given Zuckerberg's track record, it should leave little doubt how he operates. During first quarter results on Wednesday, the company projected higher capital expenditures this year than previously forecast. And later on the call with analysts, Zuckerberg made clear where he is steering the parent of Instagram and Facebook. He is keen on artificial intelligence. His goal of becoming the world's leading service in the field will require years of investment with little payoff in the near future. Meta's past investment cycles have sent investors scurrying before. In 2022, right after Facebook
Alright, it's not important for us to know what happened with investors after that, but it is, I think, important to know what it is that the CEO and I think like the largest shareholder in the company happens to be doing with all of that money and power, technology, and data. And apparently it's all being focused at AI now. So he's got all of our personal stuff, and now he gets to play with it, give it to a little pet of his, and see what happens. What could go wrong? Do I hear music? Okay, let's look at this. Before we move on, this is from a day ago, where apparently families of the Ethiopia 737 MAX crash victims are urging the United States to prosecute Boeing for its negligence and/or incompetence.
Today we met with the Department of Justice for about 5 hours, and remarkably the Department of Justice refused to answer all of our serious questions about what is going on in this case. It appears to us that the Justice Department is continuing to give a wealthy, powerful, well-connected corporation benefits that any other defendant in the criminal justice system would never get.
It's not about our justice anymore. It's not about the miscarriage of justice for us anymore. It's about the public safety. You know, it's really easy to look at us and feel sorry for us and send your condolences and heartfelt wishes, but I would say to the flying public, hold them to account, because they're not holding Boeing to account.
Yep.
And they're not holding themselves to account.
Exactly.
And if we fail to do so, we're literally risking and putting our lives in the hands of people that don't mind playing a roulette game or, you know, risking our lives. They don't.
Okay. Just thought that was important to touch on.
The last
we talk a lot about we have talked a lot about Boeing's corporate just sort of like I said earlier, negligence, right? They're expending all of their free cash on stock buybacks and, providing wealthy investors with more money, but not providing consumers, the general public, with safe planes. And I thought it was necessary for us to look at the victims and to be asking ourselves if Boeing is in fact being held to enough account. I know they were in Congress for testimony. Well, actually, the whistleblowers were. Boeing wasn't actually in Congress. If I'm not mistaken. What was next? But yeah, that just seemed important, and is important, I think. What's next? PBS Terra. Let's watch part of this. This is about how big business broke recycling and then decided to blame us. Thanks, big business. You're so great. Really, just always making our lives better, aren't you? Thoughtful and
of the 20th century saw a boom in plastic manufacturing and a growing waste problem. To address this issue, municipal and state recycling programs emerged across the U.S.
People reject now the philosophy of the throwaway society.
Today, we sift and sort our waste into separate bins with the promise that our cans, water bottles, cardboard, and even electronics will be taken apart and turned into brand new items, reducing waste and the resources used to make things. But there's a problem with this emphasis on recycling as a solution to our excessive waste. For one, most of the stuff we put in our recycling bins doesn't get recycled. And here's the bigger issue. Recycling shifts the burden of waste onto us as individual consumers and absolves companies of responsibility for what they produce. This wasn't by chance. Since the 1950s, companies have campaigned fiercely to increase plastic production.
Coca-Cola in a new 1-liter plastic bottle. 25% lighter than glass.
While framing consumers as both the problem...
Yeah, the fact is a lot. Most stuff was like in glass or like paper packaging or tin foil or something like that. Stuff that was easier to recycle, technically, depending. But especially with like glass is infinitely recyclable. I don't know if you're aware of that. But yeah, the industry lobbied for it, and that's why we live in a world of plastic bottles everywhere.
And the solution to waste.
So come on, America. Next time you see someone polluting, point it out. People start pollution. People can stop it.
Okay, does that guy not look like Ed Sheeran? I'm sorry.
Point it out. People start pollution. People can stop it.
From the raw materials of nature has been synthesized a new material, a resin made by man, plastic.
When you toss a plastic yogurt cup in a recycling bin, the odds of transforming it into a new product are very low. Of the 8.3 billion tons of plastic generated since the 1950s, only about 9% has been recycled.
Hold on, we need to do that math. 8.3 billion tons, 9% of that is what? 800 million? It's like 800 million. That's not good. That is bad. That is just... it is not good. This is not something that can be sustained in any fucking way.
Since the 1950s, only about 9% has been recycled.
I think he looks like Josh Whitcomb. Interesting. Okay. I feel like Josh Whitcomb's more blonde, though. Right? Isn't he? And a little more stocky.
12% was incinerated, while the rest accumulated in landfills and dumps or in the environment. There are hundreds...
Should we deep dive this instead of talking about plastic waste? I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to. Just kidding. Anyway, hold on. I'm gonna move us real quick. Hold on a second. Just gonna move us forward a little bit. There we go. Wait, that's too far. Go back. No.
that they are going to have to pay for it.
The corporate emphasis on recycling continues today. Exxon started funding the Recycling Partnership in 2018 and helped launch the Alliance to End Plastic Waste in 2019.
As a global manufacturer with a global customer base, we want to address this global problem of plastic waste, and we're looking to scale up that activity as quickly as we can.
Meanwhile, Exxon and other oil companies continue to ramp up.
Yeah, Josh Widdicombe is actually a pretty niche reference for most Americans. I know that Moa Nope lives in Canada, so it's slightly different for her, but, or at least I think. Am I wrong? No, of course not. But point is that Widdicombe is a British talk show sort of like comedian. Like, I think he also does do stand-up to some degree, but he's on like the British TV show circuit where they do, you know, like game show stuff, right? Like I think he was on Taskmaster. He's on, oh, my brain just broke. What else is he on? But like like a bunch of stuff. Look him up. This is not the Josh Widdicombe hour. God damn it! How did this happen? We've lost all focus. I blame myself. It's all my fault.
Quickly as we can.
Meanwhile, Exxon and other oil companies continue to ramp up plastic production.
Right, would I lie to you? Yep, thank you for helping.
As the use for fossil fuels for energy falls out of favor. Plastics, which use fossil fuels for every step of their production, are set to overtake coal plant emissions by 2030. In the last 20 years, the plastics lobby has persuaded the majority of states to require the recycling symbol on all plastics, whether they're recyclable or not.
The plastics industry went around to states, and they did this very quietly, and they convinced those states to pass laws that required that symbol with the number on it be put on plastic containers sold in that state.
Any product can display the sign even if you can't recycle it.
These companies have known for decades that plastics are extremely difficult to recycle, but pushed it as an environmental solution anyway.
The average person saw the...
Whoa, what in the fuck just happened? Why would you do this to me? Anyway, that was exactly where I was trying to stop, but I... What the fuck? Did I close it? Okay, no, there we go. Okay. Alright, fixed it. Cool. Just wanted us to be aware of how we've been intentionally duped about the efficacy of plastic recycling, and that it's only 9% that's been recycled up to this point. Granted, 9% is technically better than 0, but yeah, we need to do better, and we need to create better non-fictional options. Okay, what's next? There's actually a based new CO2 conversion process, but it does cost about $100 a ton, consumes copper, but it could also undo ocean acidification. I'm going to have to look into that. I'm unaware of this. I'm afraid I am not a encyclopedia of knowledge, just one man. That is very interesting, though. And if you want to link something in the Discord for me, that might be helpful in terms of my trying to find what you're talking about. Where are we going now? Okay. This is from PBS SoCal from 2 days ago. A history of division over nuclear power at Diablo Canyon.
In 2020, climate change hit.
Yeah, no rush on linking it to me immediately. Just try and remember to do it like in the next whatever couple days. You know, I'm not always immediately getting these stories in the Discord on my lists. Part of it is that it's hard for me to add them directly from Discord, so I have to but I will look into it once I find it. So I appreciate the heads up.
In 2020, climate change hit California's energy grid in a big way. Fires downed transmission lines, low water levels threatened hydropower production, and high temperatures saw air conditioning skyrocket. As a result, the state's energy grid was pushed to the max. It got so bad, state authorities urged Californians to drastically reduce their energy use in the face of rolling blackouts. It became clear that California's goal of having 100% clean energy by 2045 was not happening as fast as it needed to. In order to hit that goal, the state would need to triple its renewable energy sources, a feat that could take decades. Facing this reality, Governor Newsom and others began to look at Diablo Canyon with new eyes. Instead of seeing the plant as a barrier to a renewable energy future, they now saw the plant as a key tool for getting us there. And in 2022, the governor proposed loaning PG&E the money to continue operating. The measure was approved in late 2023, ensuring Diablo would stay open until 2030 at least.
Now, me personally, I'm not a fan of the government loaning money to businesses as much as I am in terms of them. I would much rather, if we're going to give them money, it's investment, and we get stock. We get a part of the company, right? It's just, in my mind, it just makes more sense. But I do think it's the right thing to do, at least in terms of promoting cleaner energy as part of a transition to completely renewable, and we can't just continue spewing hydrocarbons into the fucking atmosphere. It's just a sad reality that we live in right now, because our entire existence is based on hydrocarbons. Well, at least most of it. A huge amount of our... God, I'm depressing myself. Alright, we're moving on. Let's look at this from 9 hours ago. This is global news. Alberta wildfires. Actually, no. Well, I'm gonna look. We're gonna talk while I look at this, I think. Because technically, this video, there's no. I don't think there's like any audio to it aside from like music. Maybe. This is according to Global News, how Albertans should prepare themselves for sudden evacuation as Alberta wildfire season approaches. So, for any of our Albertan listeners, this is for you. It can be scary and an uncertain time for those forced to flee their homes. What can people prepare ahead of time in case they need to leave in a hurry? Snacks like granola or energy bars, dried fruit or trail mix, all medical supplies and prescription drugs. That one seems to me to be like, like who exactly it can have that packed at all times? All your medical supplies and prescription drugs? I mean, that's a little... I think it's a little difficult for some people, but I mean, you should not forget them. It's a fair point. Just saying. I'm not sure how realistic it is to have them constantly packed at all times. And documents like identification, birth certificates, passports, citizenship documents, NSIN, first aid kit with gauze, bandages, tape, antibacterial ointment, antiseptic wipes, and gloves. I guess the point is you know, maybe get a go bag. If you live in Alberta, get some shit ready. Okay, that's just I think sound plan. Maybe avoid hassle at the end of the situation if it does happen. Hopefully we don't, but that to me seems very optimistic, at least as for like all of the province of Alberta, right? We have hit a bunch of climate records recently, and we are on record for being the hottest year ever in human history, and we're gonna have to get real lucky for there not to be any serious wildfires in Canada this year. Fingers crossed, though. Knock on wood. Do I have wood? Oh, there's one. Yeah. A little wood on the desk. Okay, What am I doing? Alright, we're moving on to global news, but what in the fuck? Oh, no, we're not. No. No, we have more environmental shit to look at. What am I talking about? No, I've been wrong. I've been wrong before, and I'm wrong again. This is from Reuters from 8 hours ago, where Nairobi residents search for loved ones after deadly floods.
Collins Abondo is sifting through the rubble of what was once his mother's home in Nairobi's Mathare slum after deadly floods pounded East Africa. He lost 4 family members in the floods, including his mother, and says he personally retrieved their bodies from the debris.
This is exactly the place. This is where we found them.
Mathare lies along the Nairobi
Jesus.
River in Kenya. The community expects more victims will be found as...
Now, we've talked about these floods in Kenya before, but I just felt like we needed to look at this. There's so much flooding happening in the world right now. I just don't want us to forget about it, you know? And it has not been good for them.
Kenya's military was deployed to help residents and volunteers search for loved ones. The floods have displaced more than 20,000 households, with dozens of people killed, according to the Red Cross. East Africa was hit by record floods during the last rainy season in late 2023. Scientists say climate change is causing more...
No, I need to call somebody. I just realized. You're making wine, ginger, pineapple, starfruit? Can you ask the space cadets what I should call it? You're making a wine out of all 3 of those things combined? That's very interesting. I'll have to ponder on that. Alright, let's look at Dubai again. Where according to a new study that came out, it's likely that a warmer world is what made the deadly Dubai downpours heavier.
Because of the warmer world we live in, these floods have been more intense by between 10 and 40% than they would have been if they had occurred in a 1.2 degree cooler world. And we are currently living in a world that is 1.2 degrees warmer than it would have been if we had not burned fossil fuels. Fossil fuels produce greenhouse gases that go into the atmosphere, stay in the atmosphere, and make the atmosphere warmer. We do know from really basic physics understanding that a warmer atmosphere can hold more water vapor, and we see around the world that does come out as more heavy rainfall. So we have different lines of evidence that all combined say that we have no other explanation for this 10 to 40% increase in rainfall.
Herbert Linger's fruit wine. That's a great reference. Well played. Well played. I wasn't expecting to laugh during this piece because it's kind of depressing, but yeah, thank you for that. But yeah, according to scientists, the flooding in Saudi Arabia is because we are living in a warmer world. And they're really a city that's not set up so much for a lot of rain, as you might imagine. Oh god, not this one. This one makes me sad. Oh, this one makes me sad. But we'll watch it, I guess. This is from the AP from a day ago, where dozens of whales were stranded on a beach in Western Australia for unknown reasons. This is so sad. There's got to be like 50 whales here, like in total. It's hard to tell from the footage, but this is just so. It just makes me so fucking mad. And the fact is, you know, we had a representative of the whales come and speak to us, and since then it's been a devastating situation for whales. Unfortunately, we don't have enough clout here at the Galactic News Network. That interview did not reach enough people, and well, we've continued to ravage the seas, and they continue to get warmer. Who knows exactly what happened in this situation? It's just tragic. But let's look at this from Reuters, where they discuss what wildlife experts are doing to try and figure out what it is that caused this tragedy. Australian wildlife experts take samples to determine the cause of a mass stranding event.
There's a variety of reasons, particularly with this species, the longfin pilot whales. So sometimes it might be a member of the pod is ill and the others follow. Sometimes it might be some kind of noise disturbance. Disease can be a factor, so it's very varied. We're taking a number of samples, particularly the priority is to exclude infectious diseases.
So we've got vessels out on the water, and we've also got spotter plane up in the air that's doing searches over every couple of hours just to see where they are. And so far so good. They haven't made it back to shore, but we will keep monitoring them. So it's quite important that we remove the dead whales from the water. So that's what you can see. We tried to get them up out of the water line to stop encouraging the other whales that were in the water to re-strand or to strand back again. Every whale stranding is different, and there's different circumstances and different situations. So it's hard to say. I mean, I guess we've learnt some things from Chains Beach, so we've put them into.
This is just so unfortunate, and it makes me I don't know why. I think it's partly because sometimes I still feel like we should have answers to things all the time, but the fact is as the climate change, these things become even more convoluted, and because who knows exactly what part of, you know, it's definitely going to take some effort, I think, but hopefully they do figure this out. I have my own theories as to what's going on here, but I'm definitely not a marine biologist. Not even close. We should all be Team Orca. We should all be Team Orca, Brandy. 100%. What was I doing? I had a plan. Oh yeah, that's what I was doing. Get this all the way up here. Yes. That should work. That should work. Okay, let's watch this next video. This is from NBC Bay Area from 10 hours ago. Where they're discussing sea level rise. Fine, you know what I'm talking about.
Continuing our Climate Week coverage and the impacts that we are seeing here in the Bay Area.
You know, many of us live in areas, this is where it's forecasted that we were going to feel those impacts from tides and sea levels. Well, meteorologist Carrie Hall, she actually is going to give us a visual of what this could look like and the problems higher seas could create.
Most of the population in California lives near the coast or bays, and like the rest of the world, the landscape is changing over the
I love this graphic, I'm not going to lie.
due to rising sea levels, now up about 10 centimeters since 1993. Now that may not sound like
not the contents of the graphic. Don't get me wrong. I just love how it's been done. Just the actual graphics are good. That's all I'm saying.
a lot, but this rise is expected to accelerate within the century. Some of the factors are
Yeah, no kidding. It's definitely happening. And Bay Area is, in fact, in a spot where they are more susceptible to this impact.
ice loss in the Arctic, as well as those inland glaciers that are melting quickly and ice sheets that are also melting. Warmer temperatures lead to thermal expansion, where simply warmer water takes up more space. And another factor is extreme weather. Stronger storms cause the water to come farther inland, especially when combined with the king tides, which in the winter due to the gravitational pull of the moon, causing those tides to come up higher. Let me show.
Okay, there we go. I felt like that was exactly as much context as I think we needed from her on this situation. I think we get it. San Francisco, aka the Bay Area. Well, it's in a weird spot for sea level rise. And actually, just gonna point this out to chat, because those weren't actually orcas. I was just talking about orcas. We spoke to a representative from the orcas, but those were Asian long whales or something like that. I'm sorry. Once again, my non-marine biology is showing. I don't remember exactly what kind of whales those are, but they are not orcas. I was just using the interview as a sort of a jumping off point for, you know, talking point. All right, let's watch this. This is from PBS NewsHour from 5 hours ago, where apparently new EPA emission rules could hasten the retirement of coal-fired power plants. Yay.
The Environmental Protection Agency has finalized a long-awaited set of regulations regarding proposed limits on fossil-fueled power plant emissions. But these new rules could mean the end of the coal industry as a source of electricity generated in the United States. Stephanie Tsai has more.
Fossil fuel power plants account for more than 1/4 of all greenhouse gas emissions in the U.S. The Biden administration is trying to crack down on the worst.
I'm just going to point out to everybody watching right now, before we get too deep into the situation, we're only 3 likes away from unlocking Jessica Fletcher. She's right here. She's fading in and out, but she just can't quite manage to stay in this plane of existence.
Polluters, and that's the remaining coal-powered plants, which emit the most carbon dioxide. The new EPA rules require coal plants to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions by 90% by 2039 or close. There are about 200 coal-burning power plants in operation in the U.S., and last year, coal-fired plants generated a little over 16% of the nation's electricity. For more on these rules and the reactions to them, I'm joined by Bloomberg's Jennifer Delowy, who reports on energy and environmental issues. Jennifer, thanks so much for joining the NewsHour. As you know, the coal industry has already been in decline for decades in this country. Will these new rules make an enormous difference when it comes to climate change and public health?
Well, we're already expecting about half of the nation's capacity of coal-fired power to go offline by 2039, which is essentially a stoppage date in this rule as well. So that's already happening. We're already seeing that decline. This rule, however, will encourage more coal plants to close. That's clearly an expectation here. And it will do that by basically saying that coal plants, if they want to keep running after January 1st, 2039, will have to be capturing nearly all of their greenhouse gas emissions. And they'll have to start doing that actually by 2032, 7 years earlier.
Not soon enough. Not soon enough. Not gonna lie. Sorry, Chad, I tricked you. It's not as exciting as it should be, right? Those are the sort of regulations we talk about on this channel time and time again, that don't go far enough, that set the bar at a point that is devastating for our environment. We need better. 30? Did we hit 30? Oh. Okay, incoming. You're going to get Jessica Fletcher, along with this surprise video. Since we were talking about making wine, I thought we'd do a little free promotion for a boutique winery by the name of Herbertlinger's.
In the lee of a picturesque ridge lies a small, unpretentious winery, one that pampers its fruit like its own babies. Hi, I'm Moira Rose, and if you love fruit wine as much as I do, then you'll appreciate the craftsmanship and quality of a local vintner who brings the muskmelon goodness to his oak Chardonnay and the dazzling peach crab apple to his Riesling Rioja. Come taste the difference good fruit can make in your wine. You'll remember the experience, and you'll remember the name, Herb Ervlinger, Bert Herngreif, Irv Herblinger, Bing Livehanger, Liveling, Bert Herkern.
Okay. Just a little wine comedy for midstream before I take a little break. Well, I hope you've all been enjoying the show so far. I'm gonna have a quick galactic intermission here for a moment. Be back in about 5 minutes. If you haven't already, hit that like button and do consider subscribing. It truly helps me. Trying to boost this channel in the YouTube algorithm. If you'd like to support this and me even more in what we do on this channel, well, you've got one decent option. You can become a Galactic producer by going to my Patreon, where space benefits, they're just waiting for you. They're just sitting around saying, hey, we want to be beneficial to somebody. It's just a few dollars a month, and we're just sitting here, and I hate to see them going to waste. Anyway, Chad, grab yourself a drink, take a dip, and I'll be right back.
I got boxes full of Pepe!
It's a great day for being sad.
Phrasing.
I don't want reality.
Oh my god. The mods are out of control. And by out of control, I mean taking over the stream with comedy during the breaks. Good god. Claps for multiple funny things said by mods. Mo and Noah, I hear Space Wine is out of this world. Holy cow. That was on target. And BCat, I don't know. Is the thong song critically acclaimed? I don't know.
Not gonna do it. Wouldn't be prudent at this
It's a great
juncture.
song, but I don't know if the critics were about it. The pony song? Yeah, I believe so. Trying to think back to my childhood now. Wait, no, that's Genuine. No, that's Genuine. I'm almost positive. Pony is Genuine. Thong Song is Cisco. Yeah, what BCat here said. It was Genuine. That is the correct spelling.
I mean, this woman is dangerous, ladies and gentlemen.
Consequences.
Am I questioning the success? Fuck no. I was partying. I was dancing to that thong song big time. But I'm just saying, I don't know if it was critically acclaimed. That's all I'm saying. I'm trying to think of some of the music critics that come to mind, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not giving enough credit to Cisco. That's probably what it is. I'm not searching thong song critically acclaimed. Critical reception. Despite commercial success, Thong Song was largely banned by music critics. The song placed first in a St. Paul Pioneer Press reader poll to determine the worst song in history. Other retrospective reviews have labeled the song as sexist or misogynist. But I am personally not questioning it. I would never question it. It's other people who questioned it, okay? Not me. And if I would not get copyright struck, I'd play it for you right now, just to prove to you. But that just seems like inviting to get have the stream taken down midstream, which I don't think anybody wants. There's no underwear in space. Underwear is optional in space. I had to look it up. I had to know what the critics thought about Thong Song, okay? It was important. It rose to the level of research. And so we did that research, and we came to a conclusion. Wow, the timing of that was nuts. Okay, let's move on to the global situation. The non-environmental global situation, to be more clear. Diapers in space? No diapers, not on my space station, unless it's babies. But I don't have any babies, so there's no diapers on this space station. Okay, this is from Al Jazeera from 12 hours ago. We are not watching this whole video. This is like a half hour long, so I'm gonna have to do a little bit of fancy searching through this video for us. But they're asking the question, why are nations racing to buy weapons? Look, you think Sisko's gonna... yeah, oh, well, right. Well, you know, and I wouldn't blame him for that, you know? It's up to him if he wants to copyright his songs, and if I were him, I had one really, really big song and then a bunch of other not-so-big songs. I would copyright that one song, probably.
Hello, I'm Nick Clark. This is Counter the Cost on Al Jazeera, your weekly look at the world of business and economics. This week, global military spending is at an all-time high, increasing in all 5 geographical regions. So why are nations racing to replenish their stockpiles? As tensions escalate in the Middle East, Western nations impose a new round of sanctions against Iran. Will that impact the nation's ability to wage a war? Threatened by an excess of tourists.
Oh, right, I forgot about this. Son of a bitch. They go through a bunch of random news. They talk about Venice's new law regarding, what's it called? Venice is now, for, I think, 29 days a year, charging €5 to come to Venice during the highest peak, like, tourism days of the year. So they talk about that for like 10 minutes or something. Where's this interview? God damn it, bastards.
Prize, but what's different about it, and what are the main drivers, would you say?
No, I think it's like here. Right? Am I right?
China arms race in the Asia Pacific shows no signs of letting up.
Just a little bit before. There we go.
War on Gaza while still supplying weapons. It's just double standards, isn't it?
I don't think they're really pushing to end the war in Gaza. They are making a show. They are using rhetoric that they want to see an end to the war. They have the leverage. If they were to stop supplying the arms, the munitions, the spare parts, the war could not go on. They are not putting even any conditions on this aid and on these arms. I think that the Biden administration wants to appear to the world, to a part of the electorate, that they're trying to end the war. In reality, there is no serious, meaningful effort to bring it to an end. If the US really wanted the war to end, the war would end.
Right. And as we look forward into the coming months and years, do you think this upward trend in armament will continue?
Unfortunately, yes. European countries are still rapidly increasing their military spending. A lot of them are still well below the NATO target of 2%, and they're pledged to get there or even higher. The UK has just pledged to reach 2.5% of GDP by 2030, which would be another large increase. That's the probably outgoing Tory government, but a Labour government is likely to follow exactly the same policy. Over half of the increase in world military spending last year was in Europe. So that trend is likely to continue. Of course, at some point, the immediate Russia-Ukraine war will presumably come to an end, though how long that is, we've no idea.
Seriously.
And that might reduce some of the pressure, but...
And it needs to end. There needs to be a unilateral talks and agreements made so this shit can end. It's out of control. It is fucking out of control.
be an extremely tense and hostile situation in Europe. And as I say, at the other end of the world, the US-China arms race in the Asia-Pacific shows no signs of letting up. And fortunately, there doesn't seem to be any near-term threat of that turning into a hot war, God willing, but the competition for military...
I mean, it is and it isn't, right? With the United States arming Taiwan, that definitely increases the chance of a hot war, considering the things that China has been doing in the South China Sea. I'm not saying what they're doing is legal. I'm just saying, just talking it out, right? And trying to, play it out to its logical conclusions and stuff like that. And it could certainly increase tensions. It's, it's hard to say, 100%. Okay. Wait, whoops, that's not what I meant to do. That's really all I wanted out of that video. Let's move on. Let's go to the Haiti situation. And before we talk about what just happened, let's go into the past and watch this video from Democracy Now! Entitled Debt, Coups, and Colonialism in Haiti. How France and the U.S. are being urged to pay reparations for having destroyed a nation.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman in New York, joined by Democracy Now! Co-host Juan Gonzalez in New Brunswick, New Jersey.
Hi, Amy. Welcome to all of our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.
Well, the ransom. That's the name of a major series of articles published by the New York Times detailing how Haiti became one of the poorest countries in the world, while bankers in France and the United States made a fortune. The story dates back to the early 19th century. In 1804, the enslaved...
Hey, this is an opportunity for me to use my new...
people of Haiti rose up, leading a rebellion against French colonial rule, founding the world's first black republic. Under military threat from France in 1825, Haiti agreed to pay reparations to France for lost so-called property, including enslaved people that French owners lost in the rebellion. France threatened to invade Haiti and reimpose slavery if Haiti did not agree to a staggering amount in reparations, 150 million francs, 30 times Haiti's annual revenue. Haiti began taking out loans from French banks, leading to an economic crisis that continues through to this day. The New York Times estimates Haiti paid the equivalent of what's now $560 million to France over the next 7 decades. The true economic cost to Haiti is estimated to be an astounding $115 billion. And that only tells a part of the story. In 1880, a French bank established Haiti's first national bank, essentially putting France in control of Haiti's treasury. That bank, Crédit Industriel.
This part of it is truly insane. You gotta listen to this again, and just think about this: how France took over a country's bank. It's not the first time, especially because they've kind of been the what do you call it? Like the main IMF country for a while, so it's kind of been their thing, but I'm just saying.
It's in control of Haiti's treasury. That bank, Crédit Industriel et Commercial, used some of its massive profits to help finance the Eiffel Tower. The bank's current owner, has just launched an investigation into its dealings with Haiti and its role in what's called the ecosystem of colonialism, that bank CIC. The Time series also looks at the U.S. military occupation of Haiti that lasted from 19...
And just for some context here, currently, Crédit Industriel et Commercial, which was founded in 1859, partly on this money from Haitians for having been unenslaved, right? Feeling like they're owed for humans. This bank, which is still in existence with headquarters in Paris, is worth $297 billion as of 2015. So it's not even clear what they're worth now, 10 years later. It's fucking insane. Is this a private bank? I think this is a private bank. For fuck's sake.
1915 to 1934. A key backer of the U.S. occupation was the National City Bank of New York, the predecessor of Citibank. Former U.S. diplomat Patrick Gaspard, who now heads the Center for American Progress, has called on Citigroup to pay reparations to Haiti. Gaspard wrote on Twitter, "A silent scream has been in throats for decades about the role U.S. played in depleting Haiti. No one would listen. Finally, some truths," he said. Over the years, Haitian demands for reparations have been repeatedly shut down, sometimes with force. France's former ambassador to Haiti, Thierry Boucard, admitted to the New York Times that France and the United States effectively orchestrated the 2004 coup that ousted Haiti's first democratically elected president, Jean-Bertrand Aristide. Boucard said one benefit of the coup was that it ended Aristide's campaign demanding France pay financial reparations to Haiti. To talk more about Haiti and the devastating impact of colonialism in this massive series in the New York Times, we're joined by two guests.
Oh my God, how far are we in? 2 hours. Now we're going to watch a little bit more of this. But I just think it's important for us to put into perspective what this means. It means that for the last 100 and how many years now? 115, 120 years, I think, something like that. Wait, hold on. Let me look this up just so I can be 100% on this number. Oh, it's longer than that. 130 years. Sorry. It's been 130 years, effectively. And the fact is, some of these debts have been getting paid off until literally this decade. Okay? Just for perspective, for 130 years, Haitians have been funding a private French bank. It's like a subsidiary of like another bank. It's fucking convoluted and fucked, and it's all because the Haitians revolted in the late 1700s and gained their freedom and were the only slaves to do it at that time. And you know, essentially it was a punitive measure based completely on Western colonial hegemony, and it's nonsense that it's continued up to this point. But anyways, let's listen to a little bit more of this.
Weston Lee Alsanat is a Haitian-American professor at Fordham University, where he teaches courses on the Atlantic slave trade, the American abolition movement, and Afro-Caribbean history. Gerald Horne also joins us. He's professor of history and African-American studies at the University of Houston, author of many books, including Confronting Black Jacobins, the U.S., the Haitian Revolution, and the Origins of the Dominican Republic. We welcome you both to Democracy Now! Professor Alsanat, let's begin with you. So this series has come out in the New York Times to both criticism and praise. It's come out in both Creole and in English. That's a first for the New York Times. Can you explain the significance of what many are calling revelations, at least to the general public, but certainly people in Haiti have been alleging for centuries. Not only alleging, but of course having proof of this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, damn, his mic is
Thank
bad.
you for having me today. I'm glad to be here in conversation with you. So first, let me start by saying that a great acknowledgement to the many reporters and producers who put this very special issue together, and to have given it a front time exposure. It will mean a lot, not really for Haitians per se, because the facts that are being revealed throughout the report are very well known, even to the most illiterate Haitian, and even to the youngest Haitian growing up. In fact, given the level of underdevelopment that is prevalent in Haiti today, one knows, at least the Haitian people knows,
right,
that this could have only been the legacy of an external force, rather of their own making. So I think the significance of the piece will be that it exposes the rest of the world to a knowledge that actually has existed for over 100 years and shares multiple partners, both in the private sector with regards to the financial industry, as well as the United States government, Germany, Great Britain, and most certainly and most influential France, having played a role in imposing the debt that in many ways will explain Haiti's poverty today. So I welcome the piece. I think it's great in terms of the many research that it brought together, both from academic.
Hold on, there's another part of this I want to watch, but it's like 30 minutes long. Actually, longer than 30 minutes long. So there's no way we're going to be able to watch this whole thing today. Start with... yeah.
Of colonialism, imperialism, and slavery throughout the Americas for decades. I too had the same feeling that a lot of this is only new to people who haven't paid attention to the history of the Western Hemisphere over the last several hundred years. I'm wondering your reaction to the piece, because the Times really is delving into history much more than news. I think the most interesting aspect of it was the particular individuals in France and the institutions that directly benefited from the ransom that Haiti was forced to pay. But largely, this is history that is known by people who know any part of the history of Latin America and of the Western Hemisphere. So I'm wondering your reaction to the piece as a historian who studied this carefully.
Well, first of all, I would urge and encourage the New York Times to follow through with their point that they have uncovered new documents by putting these documents online so that other historians can take advantage of their excavations, and or secondly, placing them at the New York Times archive, which I believe has been cited at the New York Public Library. But I think that this story also is of significance and of moment for us in the United States, for we in the United States, because there has been this myth that has been created that the United States and the Haitian Revolution were twins, even though we know, as I begin my book on the Haitian Revolution, George Washington, the founding father of this country, was quite nervous about the eruption in Haiti in August 1791. And this was understandable because the Haitian Revolution, culminating in 1804, led to a general crisis of the entire slave system in the Americas that could only be resolved with its collapse. Therefore, the United States was probably second to France in being an antagonist of the Haitian people. From their point of view, this was a reaction to the fact that many of the slave revolts in the United States had Haitian fingerprints all over them. I'm speaking of Gabriel's Revolt in Virginia in 1800, the revolt in Louisiana circa 1811, Denmark Vesey about a decade later in South Carolina. In fact, Vesey had sailed in and out of Haiti before that eruption in Charleston, South Carolina. And then...
oh, I think I know what he's about to say. Oh, shit. Let's listen to this.
Culminating this hostility to Haiti, there is substantial evidence to suggest that when the island the island that we refer to as Hispaniola was split in 1844 with the secession from Haiti of what became the Dominican Republic, that this was an early success for U.S. covert operations.
Exactly.
So this story in the New York Times is of significance.
Yeah, and the fact is the New York Times, he goes on to say later on in this interview, at least I think he's the one who says this or makes this point, that the New York Times has been horrible with their Haiti coverage, right? If you compare the New York Times to Democracy Now! In terms of amount of coverage, in terms of balanced coverage, it is night and fucking day.
It's science.
Now, let's come back to the current day, because that interview was from over a year ago, I believe. Now, some stuff has happened in Haiti. So, let's start this off with this from the AP from a day ago. As Haiti's government scrambles to impose tight security measures as the council inauguration is imminent. So, a government is being created by the former government, and we're going to get into this a little bit more, but it's essentially backed by the UN. So the former president who is resigning is currently installing the next government, which is exactly the thing that the Haitian people have been upset about, I would point out. At least a large portion of it. Since 1986, Haiti is facing deplorable insecurity. Since before that, in my entire life, this is the first time I see this kind of insecurity in Haiti. Couldn't quite make out what he was saying. He was in French and through a megaphone. Sorry, chat. Can't translate that one for you.
Haiti is set to swear in a new transition.
Okay. Now let's look at this Al Jazeera piece discussing the transition government currently being sworn in Haiti.
Haiti is set to swear in a new transitional government, but it won't happen here. Its armed forces are struggling to secure the area around the presidential palace. Instead, it'll happen on the outskirts of the capital. Despite the difficulties, many are hopeful it's a step in the right direction.
I think that if the Presidential Council is installed, they have to put in place a minimum of security so the population can go about its business.
Law and order has broken down in Haiti. Criminal gangs control large parts of Port-au-Prince. Haiti has...
Honestly, I felt like they found, like one guy to make some points from them. Honestly, I'm going to move past this, but the point I just want us to be focused on is that this government is being installed by Ariel Henry, who is the former prime minister who was also appointed by an appointed prime minister by, I believe it was the UN the first time, and the United States in 2004. It's been a really unfortunate situation. 2004 was the last time that Haiti had democracy, when they elected somebody democratically, and then the United States differed with democracy and came down here and did some colonialism, I guess you could call it. do some regime changing. And we're going to look into this guy a little bit more, but first, let's look at this video from the AP, where Haiti's Henri resigns as Prime Minister, making way for a new government. Actually, we're going to watch 2 in a row of this without switching over. So as you can see, and remember, it's not just Haiti's police and armed forces that are involved in this. There are Jamaicans, there are, I believe, Kenyans, and who's the other one? Caribbeans, I believe, that have been trained by Canadian forces to maintain order, quote unquote, in Haiti, but really just quell the rebellion.
Because of the violence, we cannot go to election. And one of the things that we aim is to have election as soon as possible.
Why not do them now? I don't it makes no sense to install a different leader to have elections. Just have the election. Just do it. All right. This is the actual swearing-in ceremony for Michel Patrick Boisvert. Haiti has sworn in a new provisional government after the embattled Prime Minister Ariel Henry announced his resignation. The swearing-in ceremony took place in secret at the presidential palace, amid concerns about the threat of violence in the capital, Port-au-Prince. Our country is at a crossroads in the search for solutions to overcome the multidimensional political crisis, the consequences of which are detrimental to the population, to property, and both public and private infrastructures. A 9-person transitional council was appointed to restore 80 gangs. Alright, whatever. We don't need the rest of this. But I think we do get what's happening here. We're just making random quotes in chat. Okay, I see. But this new guy, let's look at this real quick. So this new guy is named Michel Patrick Boisvert. At least I think that's how you pronounce it. He used to be in Ariel Henry's cabinet. He was the Minister of Economy and Finance under Jovenel Moïse, who was assassinated, but was also an installed Prime Minister, not elected. People did not like him. They thought he was corrupt. Although there's been, I think, even more accusations against Ariel Henry. I'm not entirely sure on that one. However, under Ariel Henry, he was, what was he? Sorry. Maybe he maintained his role as Minister of Economy and Finance. That may be the case. But now this guy, he's going to be there, and I don't think people are going to be super stoked to hear that they installed a new acting president without having a democratic election. I think that to even call somebody a president is it requires democracy to happen, if I'm not mistaken. Could be, mixing up my definitions somehow, but I don't think I am. What's next? Okay, we're gonna leave Haiti now. It's just been I think it's been like at least a week or longer since we've even looked at Haiti. So I figured we'd take a little bit more of a look at it, especially considering what just happened. News from there basically went dark for what it seemed like at least a week. It may have been longer. I'm trying to think. When did they start pulling out Canadians by helicopter? Okay. Let's move on. But to kind of lighten the mood momentarily, hopefully, let's watch this little piece here from 23 hours ago from the Associated Press, where apparently a 60-year-old woman has been crowned Miss Universe of Buenos Aires, breaking stereotypes.
Tiene 60 años, vive en la ciudad de La Plata, es abogada, asesora legal en un hospital, es periodista. La directora del Instituto de Provincia de Buenos Aires, la señora Nancy Vendetta.
Hey, what's happening in chat? You don't believe me? Why don't you... Me? What did I do? What did I do? And what is this random question of 6? 6 what? What's not 6? What am I missing? Did I say something about the number 6? What did I say? Am I on top chat?
Recibo mensajes de muchísima gente que
I'm
se siente
receiving messages from
inspirada,
many people who feel
que me dice
inspired,
que a raíz de
who tell
esto
me as a result
se
of this they
anima a
are
hacer
encouraged
cosas
to
que
do
tenía
things that
pendientes,
they had
proyectos que no se animaba a
pending,
cumplir,
projects that
porque
they
se
did not
sentía
dare to
viejo, porque
complete
se
because
sentía
they
que
felt
ya era
old,
tarde, que ya había pasado el
because they
momento.
felt it was too late.
Y
Well, it
bueno,
seems
y
to me
me
that
parece que
transmitting this message
transmitir
is
ese
something.
mensaje es algo extraordinario, que me siento honrada. Y sí, yo siempre digo, si se puede
I feel
ayudar a
honored.
una persona, ya valió la
And
pena.
it was worth it. Everybody can do everything, okay? Remember that. I have no idea what you people are talking about anymore in chat. I've lost the thread on what we are even discussing. Okay, what's next? Moving on from Argentina. Let's go to Africa. This is inside the hotel in Rwanda that will supposedly be hosting migrants from Britain. "60." She was 60. Did I say 6? I think I said 60. But if I said 6, that was definitely incorrect. And no, she was not 6 years old. So sorry. No, maybe I did. You know, sometimes I trail off. Or I turn my mouth away from the microphone or something. It's my fault. I blame myself. Anyway, I mean the hotel looks nice, right? Like it doesn't look like shitty or anything like that, right? Which is good, right? But the fact is that the UK just unilaterally deciding to send out their anybody who comes to the UK seeking asylum just straight to Rwanda. Like, this one hotel is not going to be able to sustain that for very long. And what happens after that, I have a lot of questions on. Like, what are you going to do with those people? And then depending on the sort of answers you get, a whole slew of questions start coming out in terms of that. And, I mean, do I hope it somehow benefits everybody? Sure. Yes. Absolutely. But I can't thrive on just pure optimism. And, like, you know, we will see what happens. I just realized I think I used the word unilaterally incorrectly in the stream today. I think I meant to say multilaterally at some point, and just, you know, this is what happens when you're talking constantly. You just make mistakes. And now I'm questioning my entire existence. Alright, moving on. Staying in Africa. Let's look at this piece from 4 hours ago, where UN forces are now leaving the DRC, otherwise known as Congo. Fears of vacuum as peacekeepers withdraw.
Drawing down a decades-long mission, Pakistani peacekeepers removed the UN flag and raised the Democratic Republic of the Congo colours. This UN base in Bukavu is one of 14 in South Kivu province, set to close by the end of April. The Eastern Congo peacekeeping mission, known as MONUSCO, is ending this year at the request of the government. The woman leading that mission made it clear what that means.
The primary responsibility for protection of civilians lies with the government of DRC. And this is where they have to turn in terms of demanding that their safety and security is taken care of by those who have the primary responsibility.
The UN's presence has become increasingly unpopular.
Now, this situation is somewhat complicated, more than it seems on the surface, as for the last few years now, I believe, or at least for the last couple years, there has been rumors of the Wagner group going into the DRC and funding them, giving them weapons, and other sorts of things, which may be playing into the decision by the DRC to kick out the UN peacekeepers. It's unsure. What I do hope is that they are in fact able to keep themselves safe without that, and that it doesn't devolve into anything problematic. And I genuinely don't even know, I wouldn't say I know enough about the current climate there to be able to say one way or the other whether it's going to be good. But I just thought it'd be kind of a good thing for us to look at and be aware of that it's happening at all, because it's just, there are shifting sands, if you will, out there as it comes to power, militaries, governments, all the time. And you look away for 1 second, suddenly somebody else is in charge, and shit's going in any number of directions. What's next? Okay, let's go back up to Ukraine, in Kharkiv, where a bar has been hit by Russian strikes for the third time. Civilian infrastructure? What's that? A Kharkiv bar owner says the business has survived 3 different Russian strikes since the war began.
Потім повернулися і вирішили все знов зробити, і реконструювали, відбудували, зробили ребрендинг цього приміщення, знову вставили ці вікна, потім
But then on January 2nd, there was another strike. And the fact is, the glass that gets getting cleaned up right now in my headphones that I'm currently wearing, it is absolutely just eviscerating my eardrums. So I'm going to have to end this one. But spoiler alert, it does get struck for a third time within the last 48 hours, I believe is what she said in the video. But what am I moving on to next? Let's see. Yeah, shit's still not good over there, and Russia is still attacking civilians. So that's good.
I don't want reality.
13 hours ago. Let's look at this. All right, we're going to Asia. We're going to talk about China for a little bit here. First, though, let's look at this from Al Jazeera, where at the Beijing Auto Show, China looks to expand its dominance of the EV market globally.
The theme of this year's Beijing Auto Show is New Era, New Cars. And many Chinese automakers believe that this era is one where Chinese vehicles will soon dominate the global market.
Chinese automotive companies are increasing their investment, research and development so that we are able to produce cheaper and better vehicles that ordinary people could afford to drive.
China is already the world's biggest producer of cars and leads the battery-powered industry. 60% of the world's electric vehicles, or EVs, are sold in China. Earlier this year, homegrown brand BYD overtook Tesla as the world's biggest-selling EV maker.
Dozens of new electric vehicle models are being unveiled here over the next few days, and the emphasis is on artificial intelligence, autonomous driving, and smart connectivity.
Okay, cool. Just figured we'd hit up those statistics. As I found it interesting, I wasn't aware of the fact that 60% of the world's EVs were being sold in China currently, or that car manufacturer had such a dominant hold on the EV market outside of the US. However, China is not allowed to sell electric cars in the United States, so they do not have any share of the US market. Actually, they're not allowed. They are allowed, but there is I believe there's a 27% tariff, which makes it so that they just choose not to, I believe. But let's move on to this next one from France 24, where they discuss some of the stuff going on in terms of the U.S.-China relationship currently, as Blinken, we just looked at a video yesterday where Blinken arrived in China to discuss things, as we still want to be their friends, but we also want to position militarily, keeping them from expanding their empire and, what do you call it? Juxtaposition to ours, I suppose. There we go. Wait, why are you muted? Stop it.
Up its users' personal habits, beliefs, and tastes. Beyond the more conventional standoff over fresh military aid to semiconductor-producing Taiwan, how to define this battle over who controls this digital age we live in? How far should the West go? Today in the France 24 debate, this U.S.-China showdown is seen by economist Benjamin Birnbauer, author in French of China, United States, Capitalism versus Globalization. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening.
We're pleased to welcome as well André Lusakig-Petri, president of the Joint European Disruptive Initiative, which I could say advocates for tech made in Europe.
Well, it actually finances moonshot research programs for Europe to be back in the race.
All right, thank you for being with us. From Oxford in England, Una Brzezina Serenkova, director of the Riga Stardins University's China Studies Center. Thanks for being with us.
Good evening, and it's a good company.
And from Washington, Michael Sobolik, Senior Fellow in Indo-Pacific Studies at the American Foreign Policy Council, the author of Countering China's Great Game, a Strategy for American Dominance. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Your reactions on the hashtag F24debate. Yeah, Shanghai before Beijing. Antonia Kerrigan has more on Antony Blinken's latest trip to China.
Antony Blinken may already be in diplomatic hot water with China, arriving in Shanghai only hours after Congress rubber-stamped $8 billion of military aid to Taiwan.
Tonight we tell our allies, we stand with you. We tell our adversaries, don't mess with us.
China has, of course, reacted.
The insertion of Taiwan-related content into the U.S. congressional bill seriously violates the One China principle and the 3 joint communiques of China and the U.S.
A potentially glacial atmosphere in which to discuss other hot-button issues during Blinken's visit, like Ukraine, amid an apparent tightening of ties between Beijing and Moscow.
I stress that companies, including those in the PRC, must not provide material support for Russia's war, and that they will face significant consequences if they do.
China maintains an officially neutral position and denies any provision of military aid to Russia. And while China bashing was once Donald Trump's turf, election season is bringing out President Biden's toughest anti-Chinese rhetoric yet on trade. Addressing steelworkers in Pittsburgh last week, the president mooted a tripling of tariffs on Chinese steel and aluminium and went on to lambast China.
He's just
on
continuing
every
and doubling down on Trump policies right now. You realize that, right? Because that was a Trump policy that he's now just increasing. Okay. Okay.
That is more people in retirement than working. They're not importing any. They're not bringing. They're xenophobic. Nobody else coming in. I'm not looking for a fight with China. I'm looking for competition, but fair competition.
This amid fears China's competition could also send Biden's
Tariffs are the exact opposite of fair markets. Just gonna point that out. I'm not a big fan of, free market ideology, but just gonna point that out.
clean energy manufacturing plans awry. And soon after a Gallup poll of US voters placed China public enemy #1. And Chinese officials may have a bone to pick with the Secretary of State on cybersecurity, as a bill just passed says Chinese parent company ByteDance must either sell TikTok to an American owner or see the app banned from the US market. This after Meta apps were pulled from the Chinese App Store last week. On the agenda for Biden's 3-day visit, meetings with students.
So at this point, I've heard 3 different numbers on the TikTok ban. I've heard 6 months, I've heard 9 months, and I've heard 12 months. And it's very odd that nobody is citing the same numbers. And I feel like I need to literally look at the bill myself now to figure it out, because there's no consistency on this, and it's very confusing.
Business leaders, as well as his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi.
Why, André Lezuc-Pietri, is Antony Blinken in China right now? I mean, we saw in that report Janet Yellen. She was just there.
Okay, hold on. I'm just going to move this forward a little bit. Can't listen to this whole thing. I'm trying to think. What part of this I want to listen to? Let's listen to a portion of this.
When it comes to military aid for Taiwan by the U.S., we've been talking on this channel about the joint maneuvers between the U.S. and the Philippines in the South China Sea. But it's irritating up to a point. After all, the commander of the U.S. Pacific Fleet was invited just 2 days ago to a symposium in Qingdao as part of celebrations marking the 75th anniversary of the Chinese People's Liberation Army's naval fleet. So is this all just a bit of theater, or are the tensions real?
I think what we're seeing here is the value of dialogue. That is something that has really come in after last November, after what the Chinese are referring to the San Francisco Vision, after that meeting between Xi Jinping.
You disagree free market needs regulation, at minimum at least they are internationally having a standard? Well, I don't even know if I would call it a standard. They're just propping up U.S. prices, right? Which is not what we need right now. We've been talking about inflation, right? The Federal Reserve is raising interest rates, causing people to have serious problems to tamp down on inflation, supposedly. Meanwhile, we're artificially creating inflation by doing stuff like this, right? Which is not good. We don't need that. We need the opposite of that. We need price controls. We need, We need rent control. We need all these sorts of things. We don't need to be having higher prices for steel, which is needed in a lot of applications, I'd point out.
And Joe Biden in the US. And in fact, China is scrambling to underscore that, the value of dialogue as management. Everybody at this point understands that this is not a tool for improvement of relations. This is a tool for management. And I think your example about Qingdao is a case in point, because especially this dialogue is needed in terms of mill cooperation, right? And actually, I think a great example of this was that some 3 weeks ago, we've also seen the author, the Harvard-based author of Destined for War, Graham Allison, whom all of our undergraduate students always quote on the Thucydides trap, who used to, kind of make the argument that the war is if not inevitable, then highly likely between this sitting hegemon, the U.S., and the rising hegemon, the China, went to Beijing, was invited by Xi Jinping, sat down with him, and started tweeting about how Xi Jinping listened to him and responded to some of this, not least by a phrase which Allison quoted, which is the description of the U.S.-China relationship as "I am in you, you are in me, so we are kind of inseparable." So I kind of feel like this is
phrasing.
Did you hear what she just said?
The description of the U.S.-China relationship as "I am in you, you are in me, so we are kind of inseparable."
Phrasing.
So I kind of feel like this.
But it's true, though. We are kind of inside of each other, I suppose. Not sure I like it sometimes. Some of the ways it's used to make shit worse for people. But, yeah. It usually just seems to benefit corporations. Okay, moving along, let's look at the Gaza situation. But first, we're going to talk about all the protests that are happening around the United States. Like we were talking about yesterday, more and more are popping up at different universities and places around America here, and so we got some stuff to look at. First, though, let's listen to Speaker Johnson speaking about this again for whatever fucking reason. Probably because he just doesn't want to try to do his job, because Republicans don't want to go along with anything he wants to do, or because he looks bad when he gets Democrats behind him and he's, kind of seen sitting on the fence. I don't know. But here he is saying, quote unquote, "Go back to class," to students at the Columbia protest.
My message to the students inside the encampment is go back to class and stop the nonsense. Look, if we want to have a debate on campus about the merits of these things, let's do that. But you can't intimidate your fellow students and make them stay home from class. Think about that. Is that right? A growing number of students have chanted in support of terrorists. They have chased down Jewish students. They have mocked them and reviled them. They have shouted racial epithets. They have screamed at those who bear the Star of David. Enjoy your free speech.
While you cry about it.
Told Jewish students who wear the Star of David to leave the country. And shamefully so.
This is the conflation I think that I hate the most that he makes during the situation. The fact that the fact that Israel uses the Star of David, which is a Jewish symbol, it's a religious symbol, right? The fact that they use that for their state, right? It totally muddies the water on this, and he knows that, right? And so he's using it as a cudgel to claim people are being anti-Semitic, when in fact they aren't, right? The people who are I haven't seen any just Stars of David. All I've seen are Israeli flags with the Star of David on it. And it is not those protesters' fault that Israel wants to hide behind religion, essentially, right? Or that Speaker Mike Johnson wants to use the fact that that's the case as some sort of, evidence that the protesters are anti-Semitic. It's insane and just nonsensical, and it's this sort of covert anti-Semitism that we've been talking about, right? We're conflating all Jews with Israel, and it's just more of the fucking same. And the fact that he's out here a second day in a row doing this is just pathetic.
Professors and faculty have joined the mobs. Things have gotten so out of control that the schools canceled in-person classes, and now they've come up with this hybrid model where they will discriminate against Jewish students. They're not allowed to come to class anymore for fear of their lives. We just can't allow this kind of hatred and anti-Semitism.
Wait, I thought they're being discriminated against. It's either they're being discriminated against or they're afraid. Which one is it? Or I mean, I guess they're not mutually exclusive. But the way that he's framing it, right? He's saying you can't. They kind of are, right? He's saying that they're being discriminated against from going to class. They aren't, right? They have some of them, not all, as I'd point out. There's plenty of Jewish students that are protesting this, which he's completely ignoring. It's just so stupid. I don't understand how he who is this guy anyway? He came out of fucking nowhere. It's why he got elected as Speaker of the House, because he's a fucking nobody, and he's got nothing beneficial to add to any of this. So let's fucking move on. I can't listen to any more of him. Done. We're done. He's an asshole. Actually, no. We're gonna listen to the whole thing just because we have to know. This man is the Speaker of the goddamn House of Representatives. Piece of shit. 20 seconds. We can do this. We got this, chat.
To flourish on our campuses, and it must be stopped in its tracks. Those who are perpetrating this violence should be arrested.
There's no violence. The violence is being perpetrated by the police, as you'll see soon. There's been no violence being perpetrated by protesters.
And I'm here today.
Factual.
I am here today joining my colleagues and calling on President Shafiq to resign if she cannot immediately bring order to this chaos.
I think she should resign for a different reason. It's weird that we align there. Because she went into the Congress and essentially just sort of disregarded all of these students that are protesting. But that's for another time. Let's move on. This is from the AP from 7 hours ago, where at the University of Texas, students are protesting after dozens arrested the day before.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! We are here because we have lost faith in the administration of the university.
And this is, hold on, slow down. Hold on. Wait, do I have these in the wrong order? What have I done? It's actually not that big of a deal, but could have sworn I had a second one of this. Maybe not. Okay, but anyways, let's move on. This is from the Guardian News, where arrests are taking place as police clash with students demonstrating at U.S. universities against the genocide in Gaza. This is from 19 hours ago. Some of this footage is disturbing if you don't want to see protesters getting smashed and attacked by police for using their free speech, but here we go. Dozens of students were arrested at pro-Palestine demonstrations across U.S. college campuses. at the University of Texas. Holy fucking shit, dude. Look at this. It's a fucking army. Look at this fucking shit. That is an army. That is a small, that's like a literal, like a battalion in this quad at a college in University of State of Texas, right? This is insane. This is exactly like the civil rights protests of the 60s at this point, almost. Not exactly like, but the images are really starting to just be shadows of that. And we talked about it yesterday. We looked at some of the footage of it, and it's really starting. Yesterday we said, you know, at least it hasn't gotten quite to this level of violence. Well, sorry, chat, but here it is. At least 50 people were detained at USC. Oh, maybe this is a different one. University of California? Maybe this isn't USC. No, it is. I think it is. The arrests come amid a wave of protests, which began after students at New York's Columbia University set up encampments.
My message to the...
Your message is stupid, and we're moving on. Anyway, I just wanted to look at that before we move on. We've got more stuff to look at regarding these protests right now. This is a Columbia, I think, PhD student. Up next here, she says that Columbia refuses to disclose its investments in war technology and other companies that are involved in the war in Gaza.
Columbia has continued to refuse to disclose its investments. We only have access to a small percentage that are available to the community, and just from that small percentage we know that Columbia has invested in companies like Boeing, which makes the bombs that are dropping as we speak, the companies that create the F-16 planes that drop those bombs, companies that create the artificial intelligence surveillance technology that runs the drone system. So all of these are companies we know Columbia has invested in, and there's so many more that we can't even know yet.
Okay. All right, next we're going to look quickly at footage from the protest at USC from earlier today. This is 12 hours ago from the Associated Press.
It's sad because it really changes our idea of safety on campus. They're supposed to be here to protect us, and in reality, they're the ones causing violence and hostility for us. We actually have finals today. We have classes, but we're out here because we know that this is more important. We're learning about these things in class, but this is what we're actually putting into practice. We're putting into practice what we're learning.
I think it's important to be able to hear our young people voicing their opinions and their feelings, and that and I feel good to be able to participate because it so saddens me to hear of so many lives being lost.
I just forgot that I have polls. I have polls now. I officially do actually have polls. Which is nuts. I did not think that I was able to do this, but I can do it. It's crazy. Okay. Now we're going to look at some footage from Atlanta at Emory University's campus where another protest is happening. It really does seem like it is reaching almost all universities at this point. And the attempts by the police to... Oh my god, what the fuck, dude? Holy shit. What in the fuck? We're watching that again. That piece of shit. The fuck was that, dude? Look, he just... Wait, is that him? I think it is. No. Oh my god. What the fuck? Whoopsies. What just happened? Why am I double clicking fucking shit up? Just dragging this guy around, throw him on the ground. For fuck's sake. What the fuck is the point of that? This is what our tax dollars are paying for. So infuriating. What the fuck is next? Oh, thank God. Thank God. A little bit of sense. Democracy Now! Hundreds arrested. Students across U.S. protest for Palestine as campus crackdown intensifies. This is from 12 hours ago.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman with Nurmi Sheikh.
Protests against Israel's assault on Gaza have rocked campuses from coast to coast over the past week amid an intensifying police crackdown. At the University of Texas in Austin, school officials called in local and state police, including some on horseback, who violently broke up a student encampment on campus. At least 50 people were arrested, including at least one journalist.
Look at them. They're all wearing body armor and helmets. They got zip ties. They're fully armed to take on peaceful, unarmed protesters using the First Amendment right to speak on college campuses, the exact place where students should be using said constitutional right.
Some faculty at UT Austin are going on strike today to protest the police crackdown. Meanwhile, the Gaza Solidarity encampment at Columbia University continues a week after over 100 students were arrested in a failed attempt by the university administration to clear the demonstration. University President Minouche Shafik had set on Tuesday a midnight deadline to reach an agreement on clearing an encampment, but the school extended negotiations for another 48 hours. On a visit to campus Wednesday, House Speaker Mike Johnson called on Shafik to resign.
I am here today joining my colleagues and calling on...
Okay, we already listened to this bullshit. Oh.
In New York by Sarah King, member of Columbia University Apartheid Divests. She is Jewish, one of the students arrested at the encampment last week, who's now suspended. We're also joined by Joshua Sklar, a graduate student, University of Texas Austin, member of Jewish Voice for Peace Austin, who was at Wednesday's protest. We welcome you both to Democracy Now! Josh, there were more than 50 arrests at UT Austin. If you can respond to the House Speaker, who's saying that these encampments around the country are anti-Semitic and pro-Hamas.
It's absolutely ridiculous. I was there with a contingent of Jewish students, and we were received very warmly. There were even Jewish Zionists there, and they were not harassed at all. In fact, I would say that they probably felt safer than the majority of protesters.
Sarah King, if you could describe what's happening now at Columbia University and your own position. You were suspended?
Yes, I was one of the over 100 students who was arrested as part of a peaceful protest in the Gaza Solidarity encampment. And I'm one of the students who's been suspended as well, so I'm currently not allowed to be on campus. And I have to say, it's the camp itself is very beautiful. It's been a real place of interfaith celebration and solidarity in support of the people of Gaza, who are now at over 200 days of genocide. But the threat is really coming from Columbia University, which has sent the police on.
How has it been 200 days already? It is so depressing. I thought this would be done. I thought that some, at some point it would have, the United States would have cracked and that we would stop giving them aid. And yet 3 days ago, what was it? Maybe it was a few more days than that, but it's like, we just sent them another $20 billion.
Hundreds of its students who are entrusted to its care.
Aid.
And can you talk, Sarah, about what's happened, how you got suspended and your treatment? I've been talking.
Meanwhile, Gazans don't even have any fucking aid right now. Well, they have some, but not enough. And it's just, we're living in a crazy world.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Can you talk, Sarah, about what's happened, how you got suspended and your treatment? I've been talking to a number of Columbia and Barnard students who said that some of them were given 15 minutes to get out of their dorm and your meal card canceled as you're banned from campus as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm one of the lucky ones because I live off campus, but many students live in Columbia housing. And
so for using her free speech, this woman is now not even allowed to go on campus, where I assume she is paying tuition for an education that she now can't even get. This seems like, if if Zionists feel scared of getting to class and that counts as anti-Semitism, this is definitely anti-Semitism. And to be honest, neither are. But the fact is, this is completely fucked. This woman should be able to get to class. Should be stopped because she doesn't like genocide and used her free speech on campus to denounce it.
So they were evicted from their homes or locked out from their homes, probably illegally in many cases. We're looking at.
It does sound like a lawsuit waiting to happen.
It, and they lost access to their normal food. I had an undergraduate who is low income and was staying with me because she was evicted with no notice and lost access to her meal plan. And it's really very concerning the way Columbia uses the threat of. Initially, it was just quote unquote the threat of housing, the threat of loss of food to try to, as a cudgel to get students into the correct political line that is best.
Where have I heard that before? Threatening loss of housing and food. And water. Oh, right.
For its pocketbook, its investment portfolio. And now they're threatening to set the National Guard on us, risking another Jackson State, another Kent State, where students have been killed because the National Guard were set on students. And they're willing to risk the threat of violence at their hands because we're not, consistent with what's best for their board of trustees or for their portfolios.
And Sarah, what about your response to Mike Johnson being invited to speak at Columbia University on campus yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, first, I think it's shameful that he was allowed there. Like, I myself am not allowed on campus. I'm one of many talented and promising students with bright futures who have been banned from campus. But Mike Johnson, who is an open racist and white supremacist.
Okay. I was struggling to find a place to stop, but we already know plenty about how shitty Mike Johnson is as a human being. So, okay. What do we got left today? Okay, we got a few actual stories coming directly out of Israel and Gaza. This is from 16 hours ago from the AP. Israeli airstrikes and tank shelling kill 9 in Gaza, including 2 children. Every single fucking day. This is just so depressing. How can you look at this? Hold on. How can you look at this, right? Then look at the kids protesting and think that they need to be put in jail for being against this kind of destruction and killing. It's fucking insane. They're doing nothing wrong. I've seen no property damage. I've definitely seen nobody attacking anybody, and it's just been people speaking out. It might be inconvenient for some, but it's not life-threatening. It's not, it shouldn't be offensive. It might be to some people who have fucked up backwards beliefs, but the fact is stuff like this is like these kind of protests that have been happening are needed, not only just for the Palestinians, right? So that hopefully this can come to an end, but you know what I mean? Like this kind of speech on campus, this kind of discourse needs to be happening. It's exactly where it should be happening. And the fact is the people who've been complaining about free speech on campus have been dead silent to outright condemning this speech, like Mike Johnson has been doing. At midnight, everyone prepared their beds to sleep. A few minutes later, that strike happened. I woke up to rubble falling on top of me and my children. I saw their feet and could not get them out, but God saved them, and their injuries were minor. However, their father, grandfather, uncle, and cousin were murdered. So, 4 people died in her family in one go. And I'm sure Israel will never provide evidence for them being Hamas. They've provided essentially zero evidence for anything they've claimed up to this point. And now let's look at this very upsetting piece from 12 hours ago from BBC News, where apparently Israel's military is preparing for an offensive in Rafah.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
Israel's war cabinet is meeting to discuss a possible major military operation in Rafah in southern Gaza, despite growing calls against it. Israel says it hopes to launch an assault on remaining Hamas battalions in Rafah. Aid groups and Western allies have warned Israel not to carry out a full-scale attack. More than 1 million displaced people are taking shelter in Rafah. As part of its invasion, Israel is planning to evacuate civilians out of the city. Well, satellite images show 2 new tent encampments.
Just want to look at that photo again. Jesus Christ. It's like 6 football fields of tents, maybe more. It's hard to tell. It's not wide enough of a shot to really be sure. It's probably like 10 football fields of just tents. This is disgusting. How is anybody allowing this to continue?
Taking shelter in Rafah. As part of its invasion, Israel is planning to evacuate civilians out of the city. Well, satellite images show 2 new tent encampments in southern Gaza, one at a site to the west of Khan Yunis and another site near Rafah. By comparing this satellite image from the 7th of April with this image from the 23rd of April, we can see the tents were put up this month. Meanwhile, Hamas have released a video appearing to show an Israeli-American hostage, Hersh Goldberg Polin, in captivity. The short, undated video showing the man in his early 20s missing his lower arm.
And you know what? It's like Benjamin Netanyahu and the entire Israeli government just don't give a fuck about this man. It is disgusting. They have not even... Well, maybe they've pretended, but they haven't done anything but pretend to engage in peace talks. And calling it's an insult to the word pretend. What they've been doing is not even pretend. They've done effectively nothing in the way of ceasefire talks, and it's leading to more atrocities happening to their own people. And it's beyond me why they have continued this fucking genocidal campaign without even one thought of this, and why the United States, why the United Kingdom, why other governments have not condemned Israel, who are traditionally Israel's allies, while Israel kills their own people, starves their own people in Gaza. We got more to look at with this, but this I'm not gonna watch this whole video, so 1 second. Actually, we're gonna watch a little bit more of this, I guess. Here. No, fuck it.
Diplomatic correspondent James Landale spoke to me earlier. He explained more about those plans for a military assault on Rafah.
Tent cities are being built to try and have a place where civilians can go during this military operation, where there are reports of senior Israeli officials meeting with their Egyptian counterparts in Cairo, because clearly there is a huge risk for Egypt that this conflict, this operation spills over into Egypt. We know that a couple of battalions of Israeli army reservists have been mobilized.
If it spills over to Egypt, we got a serious fucking problem at that point.
But that said, the Israeli government has still yet to decide how and when it's going to carry out this operation. That's one thing they're discussing today. We also know that Israel's...
I mean, the fact is we already got a problem, and it's hard to quantify problems sometimes, but it's an even bigger problem somehow, even with everything going. It's just, it's something that we don't need to have happen in this situation. We just need a ceasefire. We need Gazans. We need land back. We need 67 borders. I'm gonna stop. We need food for God. What else? All right, that's it.
Have not yet given any support for this, particularly the United States. Jake Sullivan, the US National Security Advisor, said last night that, look, the US and Israel are still talking about this, and he said there are different ways of dealing with the threat of Hamas in southern Gaza. So the Americans have yet to give any kind of green light. And I think the key thing to understand is that this is going to be a process. It's going to take some time to move hundreds of thousands.
Dude. The way that the BBC is talking about this is disgusting. As if it's already set in stone. It's going to be. Listen to the language being used here. It's going to be a process. It presumes that Israel will in fact be going into Rafah to ethnically cleanse 1.5 million Palestinians from there. What? Excuse me? That's a process I'm unwilling to accept, and the way that this guy says it in a completely blasé manner and discusses an ethnic cleansing as if it is a day at the beach, I am utterly horrified.
People out of Rafah into some tent sort of humanitarian islands.
Oh,
to
humanitarian!
Use the
oh, you don't use it.
That's
don't
not
use
going to
that
happen
language
quickly. And any military operation, that's not going to happen quickly. So I think what we're expecting is some more of a process rather.
It shouldn't happen. That's the fucking point. That is the goddamn point that I hope everybody here already knows, and I'm pretty sure they do. But there is in no way, in no uncertain terms, should there be an invasion of Rafah. There's already been missile strikes happening. They all need to stop. It's the last sanctuary for Gazans to survive, and survival in this sense is a bastardization of the word, as many of them are still starving. Most of them are still dealing with it. Thankfully, there has been some aid that's come in, but a lot of it is concentrated in the north, as it's been coming from the north border. Although some has been coming from the eastern border wall, but it's not, it's not 500 trucks a day. They're half full trucks because Israel won't allow full trucks into the territory for fear of, I don't know, batteries getting to children. Let's watch this last video of the night from Al Jazeera English, 9 hours ago. Gaza Freedom Flotilla prepares to challenge Israeli blockade. This is one of the very few stories that are even remotely positive sounding for this back half of the show today. So, let's watch this. This is the Octanese, a ship with the Freedom Flotilla that activists plan to use to deliver 5,000 tons of aid to Gaza, which is being starved of food and medicine by an Israeli blockade. Among the aid workers, lawyers, and activists aboard is Mandela, the grandson of former South African President Nelson Mandela.
For us South Africans, the Palestinian issue has always been close and dear to our hearts. His Excellency President Nelson Mandela made a commitment to the Palestinians that our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinian people. Humanitarian aid must be allowed to flow freely into Gaza and to reach Palestinians.
Oh, I see what you're talking about. A similar flotilla from Turkey in 2010 was blocked by Israeli forces. They killed 9 Turkish activists in a deadly raid at sea. Turkey broke off diplomatic relationships with Israel as a result.
We are not stupid, we are aware of the risk, but we know that by doing our little risk, we may be waking the rest of the world up to its responsibilities.
Crew fears that Israel military could again try to stop the delivery by claiming weapons or other illegal materials are being smuggled. What counts as illegal? Organizers say they are doing their best to be transparent.
Everyone has been notified and welcome to conduct any inspection to certify this is solely a humanitarian mission. So I'm warning the world from now that don't believe any Israeli lies about they are carrying this, carrying that.
An estimated 1.1 million people in Gaza are on the brink of starvation. Relief organizations fear that a threatened Israeli assault on Rafah could make the situation even worse. Okay, chat. Well, we made it through. By the way, my dogs, I see the video that you threw into the Discord, and that one's just too depressing for us to do here at the end of the stream. I tried to end it on a slightly positive note. So I'll probably look at that one tomorrow. I must have missed it. You know, I was doing so much stuff today I didn't look at the Discord. That's on me. Well, chat, that's gonna be the end of our little journey tonight. Thankfully, we had each other, and it seems like we all got through. Not sure what was accomplished here, but do feel like I know just a little bit more. Till I see you next time. You stay classy, Galactic Stream Nation. can't forget these people. These are your galactic producers. Gabby, Goth Dogs, Aaron W., Robot Cat, Pitchforks Dragon, the Anti-Corporatist, Vincent Morales, and Donald James X. Thanks to these people, the Galactic News Network can continue to exist. You too can help produce this show by going to my Patreon and pledging $3 a month. Every little bit counts in space. Write that down.
It's a great day for being staff.
I suppose that's enough ones.